championship, and therefore things are getting serious in both our fun race and our championship race. Two races coming up for you this evening. The two driver race is our championship race, where we have pro drivers, the likes of Max Verstappen, the likes of Rubens Barrichello, racing alongside pro sim drivers such as Maximilian Beneke, Sebastian Job and Joshua Rogers. Those three are leading the Fun Race Championship, and they will be participating in the Fun Race for the last time tonight. So a very important fun race for those three drivers to secure the possibility of a championship. But in the championship race later on, we have Joshua Rogers leading the championship by a relatively healthy margin over the two Red Bull Racing Esports drivers of Graham Carroll and Sebastian Job. Now, we have different teammates most of the time in different races, so the pro driver top five looks a little bit different. Aychan Guven leading that championship ahead of Lauren Heinrich, with Sage Karam in third, and Philip Eng is the one that's missing out because he missed one round, so he's down in fifth position. As I say, we've got a really, really great entry this evening. Fernando von Hasberg joins Jimmy Broadbent in the number one machine. Welcome along to Bruno Senna, who joins us. Bruno Spengler is back, as is Robert Wickens. No Roman Grosjean this evening. He is obviously testing out in America. But Rudy Van Buren is with us. And Frank Bieler, the man who owns the Bieler Championship, he's with us, I think, for the second time. Dan Rowbottom, Harry Tinknell, Philip Eng joins Sebastian Job once more. And look at that, number 33, Max Verstappen and Maximilian Beneke. The first round, we saw them together. We haven't seen Verstappen with us since, but he dominated Bathurst just 1 week ago, and we cannot wait to see him race once again. Further down our entry list, plenty of names that you'll recognise. Augusto Canapino joins us once again to join Sami Matti Trogan. Always a strong lineup. Alyssa Paynen and Kei Kashub should be strong in the 88 car. By Skavista, the only, and not the only female driver actually this evening. And then we welcome back Rubens Barrichello. Great to have Rubens with us in the 111 car. Ross Gunn in the 99 will join Oscar Mange. Dries Van Thor with Jeremy Booterloop this evening. And welcome back to Rafael Marcello as well. The drivers are racing for prize money, $5,000 in total for each of our races. But more than prize money, there is also some real hardware to get your hands on. And welcome along to Yannick Yem, who is part of D-Box. Great to have Yannick with us, who I think has his microphone muted. Hopefully it's unmuted now. Yannick, fantastic to have you with us. Firstly, tell us why D-Box is so involved in the VCO ProSim series.
Hi Ben, thank you for having me around. D-Box is involved simply because we've been partnering with different integrators over the years, and our partner CFAT is the one that brought it up to us. Of course, with our commitment to the motorsport industry, esports is the natural evolution. Last year, we signed an exclusive FIA license for haptic motion, and that was the natural evolution. So it's one great way to reach out to hardcore sim racers across the globe, and we're quite happy to be part of the VCO ProSim series.
2 rounds remaining, just this one and the one at the end of March. Can you tell us a little bit more about the D-Box prizes for both the pro and esports races?
Yeah, we're getting closer, so I guess people are excited. So what we're offering this year is to have 2 complete sets of 4 actuators. So the systems that we'll be able to create, a step closer to what the actual driving experience is. So providing the actual suspension of the cars, providing vibrations and textures along the ways of understeer, oversteer. So anything that the body will feel prior to the audio and the video, the two system for the winners will be able to get a little bit of more immersion within their rigs.
That's really, really cool. And obviously, sim racing as a whole has boomed over the last year or so. How has D-Box experienced the last 12 months?
Yes, it's been an interesting last 12 months. So prior to COVID, D-Box was mostly a commercial application business. So because of the reliability of a product and also the price point of a product, right when the pandemic hit, we were launching our G3 product, which is a step closer to the consumer market. So we've been able to shift quite drastically our business model from commercial to consumer, and the most impressive is we've worked tirelessly to come up with a nice range of products. So this year we'll be unveiling more prosumers products, starting as of early May, June, with a partner called SimTag. We'll be launching an active braking pedal system. So not only you will be able to feel what's happening on the braking while you're driving, so all the ABS, all the speed. So that will be a step closer again to the real life action, and a step closer to being in the real car.
Awesome, Yannick. Thank you so much for supporting this series, and thank you very much for your presence this evening. I hope you enjoyed the racing.
Thanks, Ben, and best of luck to all of the guys there.
Awesome. Well, Yannick again there from D-Box. Now, Lewis McGlade and Somil Arora join us as our commentators this evening. Firstly off, Lewis, you love a championship, and we're getting to the nitty-gritty.
Certainly do. Penultimate round of the season, and after a really great run last time, just 2 tenths separating the top two over the race, and now we move to a fantastic venue. It's really on it.
Somil, for you, we're heading into the fun race, something you've always enjoyed, and it's familiar cars and tracks.
Yes, indeed. It's the super late model car. It's an extremely frantic car to race, this one, and the idea is very, very simple. 10 minutes of qualifying, 20 minutes of hardcore fun racing, no car swaps, nothing. It's all about going on the track, getting wheel-to-wheel action, and man, quite often it has put up quite the show. Again, super late model, we've seen this car race at Road Atlanta, but this time up we're going to another classic American circuit, Watkins Glen, the Boot layout. And honestly, Ben, this one should be wild. The super late model car is quite a fast one, quite a beast to race with. And of course, after this is done, it's time to go to qualifying.
Thank you very much, Jamil. Here we are then at Watkins Glen, the boot. We saw this with Lotus 79s earlier on in the season, and now we've got the super late models, which were a real handful for our pro drivers a couple of races ago. Now it's the turn of the sim races to have a go. Now, just explain, Lewis, how this is working in terms of a championship, because we've got 2 sets of drivers racing at different points, all racing for one championship in the fun race.
Yeah, absolutely, because we have 8 rounds across the season. It's 4 rounds for the pro drivers, 4 rounds for the sim drivers. This is the sim drivers' final round in the fun series. Now, what that means is that realistically, this is the time that the sim drivers, they can actually settle the championship now. If they build enough of a gap to Lauren Heinrich, who's in 4th position, which for those of you who want to know, Max Benneker, who's leading the standings at the moment, he needs to finish 10th or higher and obviously outscore Sebastian Jobe, Josh Rogers and the rest of the field. If he finishes there with those requirements, the championship will be his, provisionally of course.
Yeah, absolutely, because Lauren Heinrich really doesn't have the amount of points. He can claw it back if he has an incredibly good run, but I think by the time we finish this race, unless Joe Benneker have really disastrous results, honestly, today is the day where the fun race championship is won and lost, and therefore that SIFAT performance system will be going to the winner of our fun race. Now, they call it fun race, but these pro sim drivers, have loved jumping into different cars. Here's a super late that not really supposed to go around the road circuit, and race on tracks perhaps that they're not used to racing.
Absolutely. I mean, between the super late model and obviously the alternate late model as well, they are not maybe built for road courses, but I tell you, they are so much fun. These boys are going to be in for a great race, at least from an entertainment point of view, driving wise. You see them backing it into the corner. We're looking at Mangan here coming up towards the final sector of the circuit. They do slide around a lot. They're actually a proper driver's car. It's an awful lot of fun, but it's really important for these guys to get this race done, because it is, like I said, their final opportunity. See them coming in to get fresh tyres as well, because they need to make sure that final lap is absolutely spot on.
Because also what they're doing is they're burning off the fuel to make the car lighter,
Yeah.
but they're burning up the tyres. Car's not supposed to go round left-hand, right-hand corners. What they can do, though, Lewis, of course, is talk to their teammates, something that we don't see too much of in a fun race, but their teammates, most of them, should have experience of this car as we used it earlier on in the season.
Yeah, there is that sort of a bit of knowledge from the pro drivers that obviously raced it back at a very different circuit. Mind, it was Road Atlanta, it was round 2, it was when everyone was still very new to what was going on. So some of them maybe will have a little bit of information to go on, but I think these guys, the sim drivers, they are quite literally the best in their field. They may not necessarily take too much information from someone else. They're just like, look, I know what I'm doing, I'm fine.
Interesting to see. We've got a huge grid as per usual, up to 44 cars entered into the race, and honestly that first run up through the sweepers and to the bus stop chicane should be pretty frenetic. Slipstream's going to be a big thing. We can see these two running together. This is Sandre Setas, who's moved himself up into 3rd position ahead of Joshua Rogers, and they are about 6.5 tenths back from Sebastian Jobe and Maximilian Beneke. So I imagine if you can get yourself a bit of traffic to play with, or a teammate, that can make a huge difference around this track.
Yeah, because you've got plenty of time for the run up the hill. Once you come out of turn 1, you go through that SS section onto the backstretch. Unlike the last time we raced the Watkins Glen when we did the boot, we also have the chicane this time, so Slipstream's in a sense maybe a little bit less strong, but it is still mighty powerful around here, because obviously in a car like this you don't get, it's not dirty air, it's not anything like that. You just get a big hole punch to you in the air ahead of you, so you really want to hook up with someone. This is Sebastian Jobe on his own, last lap at 2:19, so this is his flyer. Nothing around him to suggest that he is going to get himself a slipstream. You can run quite wide of that first corner. There isn't a track limits infringement through there, whereas you've got to be careful through the chicane not to take too much curb, and it does look as though he may pick up a slipstream just a little bit from his car in front, or he's disturbed and it ruins his lap. One of the two. He's got, I mean, it is Setsas in front of him, so it should be plenty fast enough. Skips the chicane though. Notice that from Setsas as Martheno goes up into 3rd position, looking pretty decent at the moment from Sebastian Jobe as he heads around the carousel. Setsas getting nicely out of the way, so maybe got a little bit of assistance from the slipstream up towards the chicane, but running down the hill now and through what is quite a hard left hand. You've got to hold it to that curb, to the yellow line all the way round. Curbs around here, though, realistically, they're quite flat. They're quite easy to use. So you'll expect to see them using them quite a lot, realistically. This is the track that actually the NASCAR guys do come to. One of the few road circuits that NASCAR visits, but they will have had a pretty decent road car setup for any of the road car courses that they visit, and of course with NASCAR having an iRacing championship as well. There is Sebastian Jobe. Great to have visuals on him, looking pretty relaxed. He binned it last time he raced here at Watkins Glen in the Lotus 79, if you remember, from I think the lead of the race. Talking of setup though, Lewis, going back to that, they are not running a road car setup, are they? Not really. It's this sort of weird balance between and just sort of trying to find whatever works. Around here though, with it being so many corners heading the right way, it's a lot of right-handers around here, you can have sort of like one of these setups that's a bit all over the place, and it still kind of works. As long as it's fast in a straight line around here, these guys are going to be wrestling it to any degree. Jobe, of course, will carry a little bit of confidence into this. After that victory at the Nürburgring last round, obviously that was in the championship race, but in the fun race it boosts you up a little bit, and he is well in the championship hunt here. He's very much in the zone. He's just gone faster than everybody else on that last lap. In fact, he didn't cross the line to take the checkered flag, so he has the opportunity for another lap. Beneke is second, 2.5 tenths back. Martheno is down 6.5 tenths. Keika Shub up to 4th.
9/10 of a second off, just ahead of Sandro Setas. Josh Rogers only in 6th position right now, and Martin van Loosenod improves to go up to 4th. So we're seeing lots of cars improving right now. Here is Maximilian Beneke in the number 4. Is this him on a lap to try and claim the pole position? Beneke has had a frustrating couple of rounds in the VCO ProSim Series with lots of different teammates, but he's got his favourite man back. The super fast Max Verstappen is with us. Yes, that Max Verstappen from Formula 1, and surely this car has to be the car to beat when it comes to the championship race later on this evening. Josh Rogers improves up to 4th position. We still watch Beneke because he is the man that could take pole position off Sebastian Job. Many people have already bailed into the pit lane. There are about 4 or 5 that still have the chance to get a better lap time, but if they see that their lap time is not improving, they'll be able to have a real time up to date, then we'll see them bail pretty quickly out of the session.
Didn't look particularly fast into the heel there, did Max Beneke. He's 2/10 at the moment off of pole position, so still can make it up. I'd say qualifying around here is not super duper important. You can make your way up in the race, no problem, but you kind of want to get out of that danger zone. Sets us up into 3rd position. It's important for Rogers to move up from where he was, 6th position, to get up into 4th. Obviously, he's dropped down to 5th, but he would be down in around 10th position. Beneke bails out of his lap. Didn't fancy it, but wow, there we go. Looks like it's good for Sebastian Job. Nets himself 3 points, which will be very handy in the championship. And what that does will almost draw things level at the top end in the Fun Series.
A couple of checkered flags going out for the last remaining drivers that come across the line. We've still got about 4 or 5 cars out there, but nobody particularly close to Sebastian Job's time because it was so mighty. I mean, he is over half a second faster than the second row of the grid. That was not the kind of performance that we're going to be able to see when it comes to the championship race, which is so close in those Dallara F3 cars. That was an absolute domination from Sebastian Job. But if he wants that CIFAT performance system to be delivered to his house, well, he's going the right way about it. He just needs to survive our fun race, which is coming up in just a few moments' time. Before we do, though, let's have a word with our VIP driver, I suppose we could call it, because he is joining Jimmy Broadbent. If you're watching Jimmy's feed, you'll be able to hear him chatting with Jimmy about his pizza earlier on. We're going to talk to Fernando Hadsberg in just a second, but here is the grid. Sebastian Job, Maximilian Beneke, Sandro Setas, Simone Maria Martheno, then Joshua Rogers and Martin van Loosenod on row 3. Look at the gaps, though. Big gaps. Alejandro Sanchez, 7th. Keika Shub, 8th. Graham Carroll, only 9th position. Bo Albert makes his debut in 10th position. Martin Cronquet, 11th. And Oscar Mange in 12th position. Johan Franke, 13th. Sami Mati Trogan, 14th. Pablo Lopez down in 15th. New teammate for him this round. Yannick Lapchat in 16th. Oli Pakala is back with us, 17th. Yuri Kazdorp, 18th. Then Tommy Usgaard in 19th, Chris Lullum in 20th position. Expect to see him higher up in the championship race. Felix Ludding 21st, Carly Janssen 22nd, Enrique Andre in 23rd, and Salva Talens in 24th spot. Nearly 2 seconds back now. 25th, I'm not going to even try it. Ryan Barneveld in 26th, Jeremy Bouteloup 27th, Andrea Butcher 28th, Jan Venninger in 29th, and Samuel Liebert 30th. Jimmy Broadbent qualifies in 31st, Florin Denzer in 32nd, Swell Almeida in 33rd, Efik Birakai in 34th, Niels Cox 35th, no time, Matt Backham 36th, no time, Alex Arana 37th, no time, Giano Vecchio is with us for the first time, 38th, no time, Danny Elgabo 39th, no time, Freak Shotters, lots of people not being able to get a lap time in, Frank Slotman, Dennis Weiss as well. And the last couple of names there were not even qualifying. Lewis was commentating with me. Right then, let's get over to Fernand von Hadsberg, who is joining us from his home and joining Jimmy Broadbent this evening. What a pleasure for you, Fernando.
Hold on, starting now.
Fernand, even.
Hello, sorry, I missed that. I was talking to Jimmy.
I don't know if Ferdinand is with us.
I'm here.
No.
Hello?
Not hearing anything.
Hello?
There is Ferdinand. Fantastic.
Can you hear me?
How's it going?
Excellent, thank you. And yourself?
See him, couldn't hear him. Sorry if I'm talking over you, but I can't hear a thing.
Can you hear me?
Sorry about that, guys. A couple of us could hear you. I think you could hear Ferdinand, but I couldn't. A few technical things. Somil has fallen asleep by the looks of things. You're on camera, Somil. Hello. There you go. So, Lewis, interesting times, because this really is championship deciding time, isn't it?
Yeah, we don't see many laps come in quite that strong. It was very, very impressive from Sebastian Job. It draws the championship to just 2 points, separating himself and Beneke at the top end of the championship. Of course, we'll decide how that one goes through the race. You know I love a good championship talk, but it's looking pretty tasty for that fun race coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Somil, you're trying to activate the YouTube account. I can see you furiously typing away. Are we getting any response so far by the absolute domination of Job?
Not so much, surprisingly. The fan army of Max Verstappen has made their way into the YouTube chat, and they are having such a fun time. It's so great to see them out in the numbers. But the focus hasn't quite been on Job. It's very much been on Verstappen, and when he's going to race, that focus is going to happen in the pro race that's going to happen after the fun one. But stick around, because this one is going to be insanely fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Max Verstappen will join Maximilian Beneke, as he's done many, many times before, and hopefully be cheering Maximilian on in this next race where Beneke is fighting for the championship. Lewis, just remind us, who can realistically win this championship in the fun race?
Still quite a few people. It's mainly between 3 people, and you would not be surprised to know that would be Beneke, Job, and Rogers. Those are the main ones at the top. Sats is just about outside of it. After qualifying, where there's a few points dished out, it does give an extra 3 points to Sebastian Job. Beneke gets an extra 2 points, so it does close up a little bit up there. Of course, if they want to win the championship, they have to finish one ahead of the other, of course, but also they have to finish 38 points clear of Loren Heinrich, which means they need to score, obviously, 20 points across the round. Doing the math, that means they basically need roughly a top 10 if they are willing to secure that championship this time out.
Surprising that Loren Heinrich is the only pro driver in the top 5, bearing in mind at this point both pros and sim drivers have had 3 races each.
Yeah, I think it's to the consistency of Loren Heinrich. We know he's a quality driver, and also I think a lot of it comes down to that Indy race where everything was absolutely mad. And I think he may have just sort of finished up towards the top end and just basically stayed out of trouble when other drivers fell foul to it.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a fantastic oval race that was actually won by Louis Delatraz, who obviously doesn't feature in our top 5 at all. Those boys could do with the sim boys could have done with some crazy race like that, I think. They are now joining the service, so we're not far away from getting our race underway.
Oh, it's going to be... It's good. I mean, between this, obviously that build... This is why I love the fun race, because it's this, and then you've got that build up into the championship race coming up later, and you just sort of, you're getting that little taste of what's to come. Even though it's completely different cars, it's a completely different track, you still get that little taste.
Looks as though we're going to have a rolling start, unless the Dodge Charger is taking the start as well. Therefore, they'll do a full lap. Plenty of time to get their tyres warmed up, I would have thought. Sometimes when you do these rolling starts in iRacing, you have about half a corner to get both brakes and tyres up to temperature. And I imagine, Lewis, that it's probably quite a tricky thing to get these things working properly around a road track.
Yeah, they do need, obviously they need a little bit of warming as well as to everything. There's obviously that risk of overheating, although naturally at this kind of speed we're not likely to see it. For this though, because these cars are quite hard to get off the line, a rolling start is normally preferable, and to be fair, it's going to cause a fair amount of, I hope in a positive sense, chaos into turn 1 anyway, because it's quite a tight braking zone into what is a fast and open corner, and everyone takes different lines through it. Some people run wide and use all of that exit, some don't. Sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's not. I would expect to see 3, maybe even 4 wide coming off of turn 1.
Track limits then, something that is very important in qualifying, because as soon as you go offline outside track limits, you are unable to set a time. But in a short race like this, they can start kind of manipulating those track limits, running a little bit wider through that first corner and taking a bit more liberties over the chicanes, presumably.
Yeah, it's in the race, especially a race like this. For what us iRacers know, when you get an incident point, a 1x, that will cancel your lap in qualifying. In the race, it will just sort of affect you a little bit and maybe push you towards a drive-through penalty if you go a little bit too far. But realistically, I mean, most drivers, they're not going to be too bothered in the race about getting a 1x off track, just pushing it a little bit. However, if you push it a little bit too far, especially through the chicane, you can get yourself a slowdown penalty, and that is where you have to give up quite a lot of the time you gave back. And sometimes, especially if it's on the first lap, you're sort of like it will say you need to give back 1.2 seconds, and by the time you've given it back, it's actually close to 3 or 4. So they need to make sure that they're nailing that the bus stop on the first lap, because otherwise they're going to be dropping right back into what is a very large, very competitive pack.
Let's also talk about tyres, because we were seeing them doing 1 or 2 laps and jumping back into the pits in qualifying. Does that mean that we could actually be chewing them up properly in this race, and tyre conservation will be something that these guys need to think about?
Yeah, I think we saw quite a bit of it from memory back at Road Atlanta when we took these cars around, is that tyre preservation is quite important. These drivers are all quite good with that kind of stuff, and it's not a particularly long race, but you're quite right, the optimal peak of this tyre is not very long. That's why we saw them pitting all the time, because after a couple of laps they start turning into cheese, and it's not quite great for sticking to a race surface.
Was a lot of fun though when the pro drivers took this round Road Atlanta a couple of races ago. They really enjoyed it without very much experience at all, probably ever in the car. We did see a lot of people on the chat asking how to download it, for instance, because they didn't have it in their garage. So presumably many of these drivers will be in the same boat, but at least they have that ability just to jump into different cars, as they've been doing in the fun race throughout the whole of our championship, and getting the best out of them. One thing they can do here, though, Lewis, is rub in his racing.
Oh, these cars, definitely, you'll see a lot of that in this, especially between the front row. Joe, Benecker, especially if Rogers as well gets involved in that, coming around to start the race. This is going to be a blinder.
Safety truck pulls off to the right-hand side, and we go racing here at Watkins Glen. Look at the stream of cars all heading down towards turn 1. It's going to be very tight through there. A couple of lockups, everyone running nice and wide, but everyone for the moment basically facing the right direction. No, in the middle of the pack there is somebody who's gone round. Who was that? We'll wait to see the timing screens correct themselves in a second, but one looks like many of them actually managed to avoid the spinning car. And it was Carly Janssen, I think, in the 23 that is now facing the wrong direction. Samuel Libber has jumped into pit lane, so bailed out of this one, and Sebastian Job leads from Maximilian Beneke and Joshua Rogers, getting himself up into 3rd position ahead of Sandre Setas, Alejandro Sanchez and Martin van Loosenhoorn. You need to be really careful on these early laps not to put too much heat into these tyres and really kind of nurse them around, but at the moment Job is pushing hard to break the toe, and presumably he's looking for at least a 1 second gap, Lewis, to try and do that.
Yeah, I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to break the rest of the pack behind. If they can gather a pack, as we saw in qualifying, they were quite far ahead of the rest of the group. If he can drag even Beneke away from the pack, he only then has to worry about fighting one car, not an entire field of cars. A few instances over the first lap, we did see Carl Janssen was taken out at turn 1. Frank Schlottmann was up the hill as well with Samuel Libert, and I also believe at the chicane we saw Beau Albert as well. It was a pretty chaotic mid-pack as we would expect, but at the front all things were fairly clean. Not long left to go on the clock. Of course, it's not a very long race, which means that Beneke needs to get onto the back of Job ASAP, because he needs to finish ahead.
Yeah, shame for Beau Albert actually, because he'd done a really good job in qualifying. His first time with us here in the VCO ProSim Series. A pleasure to have him with us, but unfortunately it hasn't turned out particularly well for him, and he's right at the tail of the pack. Just seeing how many have been into pit lane or go into pit lane. We know Samuel Libert is in pit lane. Gianni Viecchio down in 42nd position as well. But for the moment, ignore Dennis Weiss, who is at the top of our timing screens. There's some little glitch going on there. It's still Joe Beneke Rogers.
Yeah, I think just a bit of a timing bug there. Just seeing Setsas and Setsas and Sanchez there going side by side into the bus stop. Decent progress over the first couple of laps from Rogers to get up into what is third position. But this is the thing. This is the thing with tyres and when they're going off and such, is that if you're at a point where there's a big gap between you and the next group, you have to work on closing that gap down to them, and you've got to use tyres in doing so.
Here's the replay of the start of the race. I think that was the 23 in the middle of the pack, just catching the 21 car to spin him around. So 21 was Samuel Liebert, 23 was Carly Janssen. Eric Andre now falling to the back of the field. So he's had contact with somebody. And Matt Backham, by the way, down in 33rd position. So not a good run for Matt Backham in this one. But really, as a focus for the championship, that's where we want to be looking. And there is the rubbing starting to happen. Being muscled to the outside. Kei Kashub in the number 2. Yeah,
Martheno there just sort of firing his way through. As you know, we kind of expect in these kind of cars, we expect a little bit of contact. Nothing intentional or whatever, just you're pushing your way through big cars and whatnot. Vice comes into the pit lane to sort of get out of the way, as does Matt Backham, so we are back to a standard order. No panics from everyone. Martheno is the one that sets the fastest lap of the race that time by, so good times for him. This is a little bit of... that's some tight stuff there. The 15 going through. That is Martheno moving up past Kei Kashub.
Past Graham Carroll, number 3, who fights back. Now the two of them will be very slow coming on to the back straight. They're going to give Kei Kashub the slipstream, but Kashub is then defended. There's touching, around goes the number 15. That is Simone Martheno, who made the fastest lap. Keep your foot on the brakes, but that was a little bit naughty in a straight line. Tried to defend from Kei Kashub, but Kashub had his nose in there and spins him around. That was for 7th position, and now gives Graham Carroll a little bit of breathing space as we show our attention to Alejandro Sanchez fighting off Martin van Loosenhoorn.
That was massive sideways coming out of the carousel from Van Loosenhoorn. Now it's going to go around the outside at the toe. That's going to open the door, though, for Graham Carroll on the inside. Lights it up on the rear end again. This is not good for their tyres, Ben. They are pushing them too far.
But they're trying to keep up because Sebastian Job is setting such a pace at the head of the field. Nearly a second over Maximilian Beneke. And then there's a big gap of 2 seconds to Joshua Rogers, who's not found his rhythm in this particular car. We've seen him very strong in so many other vehicles, including, of course, his successes in the Porsche Super Cup over the last couple of years. And he's been a multiple winner, in fact, the most successful man in the Dallara F3 car that we used for the championship race. But certainly hasn't got the pace here and is under pressure from Sandri Setas in 4th position as we watch the battle for 5th. Alejandro Sanchez and Martin van Loosenhoorn. Just ahead there is that battle for 3rd.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised with Rogers at the moment. Would have expected a little bit more. Obviously, he's very good in most cars. Put him in his car control is excellent when it comes to supercars and stuff. That was really nicely held from Sanchez. Just opened up the steering a little bit, powered through, and just managed to keep it with the momentum around the outside of 31 of Van Loosenhoorn. That's really, really nice work. But yeah, Roger, I would have thought would have been better. I thought his car control was just really, really up there, but maybe this car is not for him. Wow, look at that run from Van Loosenhoorn to the outside of the chicane. I don't think he's going to be able to get this done. Ooh, they are going to do so still side by side, and it is going to be the 28 of Sanchez holding on, but it's going to open the door for Graham Carroll. Wow.
And 3 wide doesn't go. There's connection between the two. Van Loosenhoorn holds on to only lose a couple of positions and not drop too far back or spin, but all that battling, look at it, how it's brought the pack together. Graham Carroll now leads the train in 5th position. Sanchez second, Kei Kashub up into 3rd in the group. Oscar Mangent in that group, as in Martin Kronke and Sami Matti Trogan. Really, really intense racing so early on in this race with 13 minutes still remaining.
That was absolutely stunning. Just saw everything that was happening in front of him, and Graham Carroll's just sat there thinking, I can make the most of this. Watches them go side by side through the bus stop. It isn't ideal. It's so much slower doing that. Naturally going side by side is anyway, but in these quite large lethargic cars, it's not ideal. Big snap on the brakes though from Graham Carroll. It's going to open the door for Sanchez to rub onto his rear left quarter panel. This is intense stuff in this mid-pack, but they're losing so much time to the podium.
So much work going on the steering wheel of Graham Carroll there. So much input to try and get the car in. Of course, as we get later into the race and the front tyres wear more and more, they'll be trying to turn in using the rear end of the car. So effectively drift into the turn and accelerate out of the turn to take away the pressure from the front tyres. And that is not good for the tyres at all, but also that's where the work is coming in. Now that isn't, making sure that isn't Sebastian Job behind there in that third car in the group. I don't think it is, even though it is a similar livery. Sebastian Job is further up the field. So Beneke and Josh Rogers kind of together, not really. Here's Martin van Nistelrooy and Alejandro Sanchez. That was an easy move, and he moves back up one position. Just a note, by the way, how few drivers have actually got a lap registered in this race. Most of the drivers are still at least getting 1x every single lap.
Yeah, Van Nistelrooy's got some good pace in his car, though. He's been pretty fast throughout. And whoa, I think that is He's upside down, not 100% sure. The number 17 getting out of the way there, that was the one we saw coming out of the pit lane. That is Vladimir Ozaretskovsky, who's just parted from the pit lane, racing in the championship race as well. But just maybe going a lap down a little bit early. Obviously had some early issues in this race.
Let's have a look to see what's happened further back. There's a number 10 and number 30. This is way back, in fact. Big old drift from the number 10. Oh, and heavy into the wall. That is... big accident. In fact, number 6, Bo Albert, gets involved as well. And the 30's Andre, who was upside down. So those guys are now out of the race, by the way, along with Danny Elkabay, Gianni Viecchio and Florent Denzler. And Bo Albert as well.
I think it was Efkan Berkay that was kept the right foot very much down throughout that incident and just charged through. This is Sebastian Job leading the way from Max Beneke, 0.6 of a second separating. Beneke is closing that gap down. It went out to around about a second or so. Maybe Beneke's looking after his tyres. This is important because there is 3 points separating these two positions. It's 35 points for the winner, 32 points for second position, and this could decide things when it comes to that championship, because as things stand, if things were to finish as they are, Sebastian Job will lead the championship in the Fun Series, and at least provisionally, in my sense, would win it by a single point.
Yes, so Job has got 1 extra point over Beneke, and Job was 3 points back on Beneke coming into this round. So that brings him 2 points up. So as we stand, 2 points down. So as we stand, it would be 1 point up, wouldn't it? Is that correct, Lewis? My maths? Yeah.
It's because Job got 3 points for qualifying, Beneke got 2 points for qualifying, and then there's the rest of the points for the race. There was 3 points between them before the race. It would be just a single point between the two at the end of the race. I mean, this is where, I don't know about you, Ben, but my maths is not very good. So we're just making this up as we're going along and hoping for the best. But as far as my maths suggests, that is the case.
Yeah, absolutely. So if Beneke gets past Sebastian Job, then it's very much Beneke's. But from the moment Sebastian Job would win the championship, we speculate, and it really does look like it's these two for the win, because there is no sign of Joshua Rogers. In fact, he's having to keep Setas at bay for third position, and I thought maybe Rogers might be preserving tyres, but actually I don't think he is at all. I think he's just struggling with this car.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's a race of two halves, right? You've got the first half of the race, which is about building yourself the track position, which is kind of where I thought these two were going to be going with Job and Beneke, is build their gap to the rest of the pack. Like I was saying early on, if they've pulled away, the only person in this race that Job has to worry about is Beneke, is the car behind. Everyone else doesn't matter, and if you have tried too hard early on to look after your tyres, you're worried about the entire pack. So they've built 5 seconds. So Job is fully in control of what's going on. His destiny is in his hands, and Beneke is the one charging with the work to do.
8 minutes still remaining. Still plenty of action could happen, especially when it comes to keeping these tyres alive. Remember, we did see Sebastian Job late on around this circuit, probably about 2 or 3 months ago now, in the Lotus 79. Bennett just got a little bit too excited on the throttle. And these cars, remember, they're not designed to go around proper race circuits. They're supposed to just go around left-handers. They're an oval car, and there is a whole bundle of understeer from Sebastian Job as he comes back on to the normal Watkins Glen circuit. I have to say, I think he is slightly struggling now. Beneke's got closer.
I agree. Things are looking pretty good for Beneke at the moment, because Job looks like he may have just burnt them out a little bit too hard in the early stages. And still, with quite a few more laps to go, 7 minutes left on the clock, it's still over a quarter of the race, and Beneke is right there. We've spoken about how slipstream is quite strong around this circuit on that run up towards the bus stop. So realistically for him, if it was a whole group of different drivers, I would say that the leaders' days are numbered at the front of this field. But this is Sebastian Job, this is Max Beneke. We have absolutely no idea what will happen. Think back to some of the races that we've seen in the Porsche Esports Super Cup, and of course when we saw Job and Rogers battling it out last time in the championship race at the Nürburgring. There was some incredible stuff. Just saw in the foreground there, coming through shots, Setsas has got up into third position. Josh Rogers dropping that to him. I don't think he fought that too hard though, did Josh Rogers, though he is fighting it hard now.
Trying to get his nose down the inside, but ultimately for the championship he needs to be about 6 seconds up the road from where they are right now, and the car squirming around underneath them, under acceleration, under gear changing almost. A real handful to keep these cars on track right now. Josh Rogers breathing down the neck of Sandre Setas, and there's a good battle actually behind with Graham Carroll, Sanchez and Kashub still locked together. They've got Lucenord in there as well, and now it's side by side once more. Joshua Rogers unfortunately will be on the wrong side as they come to the next corner. Oh no, he has it the inside line. That's the right place to be for this corner, but Sates can hang it around the outside and be on the inside for the next corner, which he is. There's a bit of rubbing, there's a bit of paint contact, and now Setas has the inside line. It's still side by side. Be careful not to run him too much onto the grass. Give him a little bit of room, and Josh Rogers still has the overlap, but ultimately he's going to have to concede that corner for now.
Yeah, that was pretty tough stuff between the two of them. Got on the right-hand side as well. Battles further down with Martin van Loosenord. The number 9 of Setsas going to hang on to third position as Josh Rogers no way through. Fighting really, really hard. 0.2 of a second, by the way, separates Job and Beneke. It is close everywhere on this field as we're closing in on the final 5 minutes of the race. Oh, this is looking like a pretty tense environment, and for most of them, Ben, that we are seeing, I would very much rather be the attacker, not the defender, because they are looking like they have all of the control right now, and they seem to have their tyres very much in their hands.
Best lap was a 49.6, or 48s even in qualifying. We're now well into the 50s, 51s. That is how much time they're losing, how much they're having to grapple with this car to keep it on the circuit and can keep it running. Look at the slipstream that Maximilian Beneke will be benefiting from. These cars are not particularly slippery when it comes to aerodynamics, and we know that iRacing have kind of upped the effect of the slipstream, so Sebastian Job really has huge pressure now. If he wants to win this championship, he has to keep Maximilian Beneke at bay, and for the moment he is having to really think creatively about where he places the car. Beneke trying a bit of a slingshot, just dropping back a little bit, just to kind of give his front tyres a little bit of breathing space into the corner so he can slingshot out of the corner, whereas Job still grappling with the understeer, now throws it into oversteer on the exit of the corner. Still enough to hold on for the moment, but we've only got a couple of laps left.
Yeah, he was really, really concentrated there. I love seeing the cameras of the drivers, because you sort of see what's actually going on and how hard they're fighting, and you can also see all the little things that drivers do when they don't even realise they're doing it, because Job's got his own little thing. I won't point it out just in case, but every driver has their little thing that they do when they're driving, whether it's opening their mouth and breathing, which is what a lot of people do, and you can really hear it. But they all have their thing, and you see it when they're driving, because they don't even think, because they're so focused on the car, on what they're doing, that they just don't even think what they look like on camera. So it's amusing to see that from time to time. Josh Rogers back up into third position ahead of Setsas. Graham Carroll, though, is coming.
Yeah, here they are, and as you say, Graham Carroll starting to get onto the tail of these two because they've been battling so hard. Rogers is back ahead, but just seems a little bit offline. Yes, he does hit the barrier, and that is going to allow Setas with the run for sure, and damage, of course, to Josh Rogers' car. I said he looked offline through the first couple of corners. He's managed to hold on into the braking zone, takes a huge chunk of curb and grass, but now Graham Carroll is there to steal more points away and ultimately really cement Sebastian Jobe's possibility of winning this championship. Of course, I don't think Graham Carroll's going to have the opportunity to influence Maximilian Beneke's race. That is Sebastian Jobe's responsibility alone, I think, for the remainder of this race. Lap times, as I say, just under 2 minutes. So we are going to be close, I think, for getting one more lap in.
Yeah, I think we are. I think it's only going to be one more based on where they are. We'll see when they cross the line. It's going to be pretty close. I'm pretty sure this will be coming up to the final lap. We're on the penultimate one now, so not too long for Jobe to hang on from Beneke. That was a large hit from Rogers at a very high-speed part of the track. He called it right. He was offline, and obviously with how the rubber-in line and stuff works in iRacing, it's a little bit tricky when you get offline because you lose grip, as you should do. And when they lose grip, they go straight up to the wall, and just that slight bit off when they're running at this speed is just a little bit hard. We've got, I believe, Habsburg with us. Is there a Ferdinand von Habsburg? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. Right, so you're seeing this racing going on right now. Obviously, you've got the race coming up. Talk to us about the emotions going into it. Are you feeling the pressure, or are you all right, comfortable?
I'm quite comfortable. We'll get back into sim racing because I haven't been in it for a while. I've been off travelling a bit, racing myself. But when I got the call to race with Jimmer, and I was at home, I was straight up for it.
Well, we are seeing some fantastic racing. That was a brilliant move from Max Beneke. Seeing these drivers absolutely firing it around the circuit, how are you confident for the next race? Are you feeling that you can kind of keep up with some of these guys?
I don't think I can put too much expectation on results, let's say. I think it should be more down to having some fun. And since I haven't really done the whole championship, it's more like a guest race. Just kind of see what can happen. But I love the F3 car, I love Spa. And obviously doing stream with Jimmy is always fun, so it's good to be teammates with him. It's just always a good night when you get that kind of opportunity.
Well, thank you very much. Hopefully we'll see some good things from you in the race. Ferdinand Habsburg joining us in the interview. We're watching this fantastic race going on. Wow, Ben, this has been crazy.
Beneke has taken the lead and therefore taken the championship. He's only got a couple more corners to hold on here. Sebastian Jobe, I'm sure, will be throwing it down the inside if he has the opportunity. Really, only one braking zone remains, and therefore this will be the place where Sebastian Jobe could do it if he can, but there is no opportunity. Maximilian Beneke starts his night perfectly with a victory in the fun race, and therefore provisionally the championship as well. He'll have to wait one more week before that championship is given to him, but Beneke could not do very much more as the rest of the field come across the line. Joshua Rogers does hold on to third position. Those three really have been the class of the field in this particular championship. Graham Carroll ended up in fifth position ahead of Alejandro Sanchez, Kei Kashub, Martin van Loosenord, Oscar Mangen and Martin Kroenke in 10th position. Good to see quite a few guys still running and still taking the checkered flag when in some of our fun races before we've had a lot of retirements. Jimmy Broadbent, by the way, is about to come across the line. He is some 50 seconds back and just appearing into shot in a couple of seconds time. There he is. Well done, Jimmy. You got yourself a 26th spot.
The thing is with those cars, though, they're just so much fun to drive. You kind of want to finish it. Really good race that, and what a move it was from Beneke. Just caught that one coming into the bus stop around the outside in a harsh battle with Sebastian Jobe, two of the absolute iRacing greats at the moment. That is what we love to see going, and that's the fun race. We're going into the championship race.
Just a tenth and a half is the gap between Beneke and Jobe at the head. 8.6 back with Josh Rogers and then Sandre Satas. A great race-long battle between those two. Graham Carroll leads the next group ahead of Alejandro Sanchez, Kei Kashub, Martin van Loosenord, Oscar Mangen and Martin Kroenke. I think that's perhaps his best result of the VCO ProSim Series season. Pablo Lopez in 11th, Sami Matti Trogan in 12th, Jürgen Franke 13th, Salva Talens 14th and Yannick Lapsha in 15th spot. Jeremy Bootloop, Ollie Pakala, Tommy Usgaard, Chris Lulham and Alex Arana. As I say, we had about 27 finishers, so plenty more down there, and then lots that retired. Firstly to you, Somil, how did our chat enjoy that?
They loved it. Initially, there was just a little bit of skepticism surrounding the fun race about, hey, there's no Max Verstappen, so should we watch? But in the end, everyone just seemed to have a really good time, especially with that battle towards the end. What a mad finish to the race that was. Seriously, I still got goosebumps watching that one. That was really fun. And unfortunately, no virtual podium ceremonies, but quite a fun one this.
Yep, we're going to see Max Verstappen next in the qualifying and the first stint of the championship race. So hold on to your horses. We'll be getting to Max in just a few moments' time. Lewis, it doesn't really seem as though anybody can do anything about Beneke in terms of the championship there. Fun race championship kind of sewn up thanks to that great move.
Yeah, if it, like I said, if they were finishing inside the top 10, it's basically a battle between them. With them doing that, it should be enough to secure him the championship. Naturally, everything needs to be investigated, so it's all very provisional. And we'll wait until next round towards the end of this month. But things are looking pretty good, and what a way to do it.
Didn't seem too hard either for those guys to hold on to the car at the end of the race. They were doing a great job either to preserve the tyres or just to muscle the thing around, Lewis.
I think it's more so that the car's really drivable. Even on worn tyres, it's still not necessarily grippy, but when you lose it, you've got such a large slip angle in the car that you can catch it. This car's used to doing quite a lot of sideways stuff itself, so when they go sideways, it's very catchable.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something to do with the cross-ply old-school tyres that they have that allows them to slide more than kind of brake grip. And like you'll see in the Formula 3 car, not really a car that you can drift very well. Cross-ply is the old-school way of building a tyre.
Yeah, you'd probably know more about that than me, but you're absolutely right. You with the Formula 3 car, you cannot drive it like that at all. If you're starting to slip and slide it through the corner, there's only one thing that will greet you, and that is the wall, not your teammate.
Right then, let's focus ourselves then onto the championship race coming up. That is the second of our races where we've got the pro drivers alongside our sim drivers that we've just seen. Pro drivers will take qualifying and the first stint, and then the sim drivers will finish the race. Now, this way round, Lewis, means that we don't seem to have so much issue with the pit window. The other way around, there's been multi races where there's been lots of confusions and penalties, including last race.
Yeah, last race, it was. I jumped into the briefing prior to this, and that was the main note of the race directors were, let's just get this. Let's make sure that for the final 2 rounds of the season, let's just get that pit window just sorted. Make sure that no one's pushing it that little bit too far. With all the prize money on the line and stuff, people are just trying to push it that very, very little bit further. That said, my money, if in this race, I'm looking at Max Verstappen because I reckon he's going to qualify this car well. We know he is massively fast, and everyone in the audience wants to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Max was absolutely spellbinding in the opening round of the championship. He kind of influenced the track vote to do a race at Motegi, which he then admitted he didn't really know about or had raced around. But he's done a good job this time, Lewis, to get us a proper classic track.
Oh, Spa. What a circuit. What a venue. We saw it race, of course, in the IRO1 in the fun race quite early in the season. So we've seen them already take to the circuit. That was round 3. But now we get to see them take it in the Formula 3 cars. What a venue it is. So many overtaking opportunities, and definitely one that we're going to see some hard racing round. Maybe, you might have a lights to flag victory from pole position, but around a circuit like this, it's very unlikely.
Yeah, and a place where we see in the real world a fantastic ability to race in F3. Presumably also with the iRacing updates that we saw over the last builds, the slipstream effect all the way from La Source, all the way through Eau Rouge Radion up to the Kemmel Straits to Les Combes is going to be amplified. Surely you're not going to be able to get away.
It's going to be hard. It's going to be really, really important if you want to break away. Same as we saw naturally, coincidentally enough, in the race we just saw. It's going to be really important to get those laps in early to get that breakaway and try and pull away from the rest of the field in the early stages, because if you're in that mid-pack later on, things are going to get harder and harder.
So we are going to be heading here in a few moments' time for qualifying. We will try and get as much qualifying in as possible. But Somil, Spa is a place that you love, isn't it? It's one of your favourites.
It is. Spa is just such an incredible circuit to have a Formula 3 race on. Of all the Formula 3 races I've commentated on, the one where I honestly saw the most amount of drama was right here, especially with the draft bend, because you can get a great amount of it after La Source, but then you just want to make sure that you hold back behind and just want to maximize it towards the end of the Kemmel straight, because if you get it too early on, you might end up losing the draft to the person who's ahead of you. It's all very complicated to say, but when you watch it, it just comes up to be such an incredible sight. It's going to be fun racing around here, Ben, not just the draft, but around the corners as well. Best sim racing drivers, the best pro ones in the real life. This is going to be fun.
We have plenty of pro drivers. We've got pro sim drivers. And then we have Jimmy Broadbent, who is joining us now to have a quick chat with us. I hope that wasn't too rude, Jimmy. It's
no,
good
I
to
was
see
just trying to work out my technology.
Oh, okay. In which case, you probably didn't hear my insult, which is a good thing. Jimmy, you've had lots of different teammates. You've had lots of different, or sometimes not had a teammate at all. How's Ferdinand stacking up for you?
Oh yeah, third is all right. We raced together in the 24-hour Le Mans Virtual on the same team there, so we sort of know each other already, which is nice. And he's enjoying himself. He was telling me all about his tiramisu earlier on, which is sort of an intense pro driver training that I wouldn't know about. But it's nice to get that insight, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if people come and visit your stream this evening, they can hear Race Control talking to you. I heard you chatting about vegetarian pizza earlier on. All kinds of good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we're a variety stream. I like to think. You know, you come for the racing and you stay for the terrible chat.
And how was that supermodel stock thing that you just drove?
Well, I was driving with this wheel here. I don't know if you can see it. It's a little Formula room. So you're meant to be driving with like a big circular rim, so you can get the car around the corner. So it wasn't very great. I got e-sported by a fellow named Danny. So I'm gonna have a word with him afterwards and say that wasn't very fun of him, you know.
and Danny's grumpy at the best of times, isn't he? On the chat, he's always the one that gets grumpy.
Yeah, you know, maybe it's because he was being beaten by what would you say, just a sim racer earlier?
Hopes for this the championship race?
I guess we've finished without incident. We've had a couple recently where we've lost a wheel or something, you know. So try and get through. I mean, 30 only downloaded all the stuff today, so he's a little bit new to it all, but he's adapting pretty quick. Wow. So I guess just have fun and try and get to the end.
Awesome. Cheers, Jimmy. Thanks you very much for joining us. Get back to your chat. Make sure that they're behaving themselves. We are thanking Jimmy for joining us. He's been with us throughout the whole of the championship and with various different teammates. So far, Somil, who's your favourite Jimmy teammate?
That's a tricky one. I'm slightly intrigued by Phoenix McEwen. I mean, he did have a little bit of a shunt last time out, but it's an intriguing concept. It's something that really gets me entertained thinking about it, so I think I'll go for Phoenix.
It's a very good point, actually. Phoenix McEwen has been announced as the VCO test driver. He'll be doing track guides for the last round of our championship, and in fact did do some track guides for this one, but we haven't been able to get them into the show. If you don't know who Phoenix McEwen is, Google him, check him out on Twitter, check him out on Instagram, and just marvel at what on earth is going on. Lewis, who's your favourite Jimmy teammate?
Oh, it's Jimmy. Jimmy on
his own.
That round he did the solo at Bathurst. I mean, well, if you're doing a race against these kind of drivers and you're doing it solo, then power to you. So that'd be my pick in teaming up with himself.
It's fantastic to have so many different partners, including Jimmy Broadbent, as part of our championship. One of the most important is, of course, the provider of many of the people's wheels and pedals. It's Fanatec. And if you're wondering what that was, that is the amazing steering wheel that was announced just before Christmas. Installed into the GT3 BMW M4, but also can be taken straight off and put onto your rig at home, built by Fanatec. Just an amazing piece of kit, Lewis.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I remember watching that live stream at BMW Sim Live where they pulled the car up to the stage. Obviously, you were there, so you would know. Got the wheel out of the car, and when he walked over to the sim rig, I was like, that's surely not. And plugged it in, worked straight away, not a problem. Amazing bit of kit, and shows where the future of sim racing is really going.
Yeah, and also made of carbon fibre. It's lighter than the wheel that I've got here, which is the original BMW wheel. So really, really cool. And I think Jimmy actually has been given one as winner of the Hall of Fame award. So that's very, very cool. Right, we mentioned the track vote a few moments ago. It was kind of a one-sided affair by the end. Spa-Francorchamps beating Road Atlanta by a huge margin. But actually, that doesn't tell the full story, Lewis, because it was pretty tight until Verstappen got involved.
Yeah, it's a bit like the first round where everything's looking pretty nice, pretty tight, you know, talking 45% between them. Then Max comes along and says, I want to race Spa. If you want me to race tonight, let's vote for Spa. Bam, on Twitter, and then everyone started voting for Spa, and here we are, 87% over 13% to Road Atlanta. I quite like Road Atlanta, but there is no getting away from the absolute classic of Spa.
Here we go then, 15-minute qualifying session. We have a 40-minute race, and in the centre, on the middle of that race, we'll have a 6-minute pit window where the real-world pros will hand over to the esports racers for them to finish the race. Now, as it says, tracks are voted for by the fans on Twitter, and they decided that Spa-Francorchamps will be the next track that we race on, and makes a lot of sense. Dallara 3 rounds. Spa, that's a legendary combination that should provide us with very, very entertaining racing. You've already mentioned qualifying. Surely it's going to be a one-horse race with Max Verstappen taking pole.
Yeah, but there are a lot of people that can get involved in it. You know, if we get a train of cars and Max Verstappen's at the head of it and someone's deciding it's a good idea just to stick to the back of his rear wing, then qualifying here could be very, very close. But let's not forget that Max Verstappen is obviously not only mighty fast in the real world, but he is mighty fast in sim racing. For those of you that managed to catch on iRacing's YouTube, and they posted it on Facebook, they posted it everywhere. If you owe it to yourself to watch it, Max Verstappen's pole lap from the 12 Hours of Bathurst last weekend was absolutely incredible, absolutely hooked up, and then put together a perfect race where, just saying, 2,901 teams entered the 12 Hours of Bathurst, and only 2 cars ended with 0 incidents. One of them was Max Verstappen and Enzo Benito. The other one might have been me, but we'll roll through that. We'll pass that one up. Verstappen, though, is a massive, massive talent, and we all know that. We're about to go into qualifying then. Let's see what's going to happen at Spa. With qualifying underway, we'll see who can grab that pole position. Max Verstappen seeming to be the favourable driver, but potentially could be stopped by someone. Sommel, what are your thoughts for this qualifying session? Where are we headed?
I think it's going to be quite an interesting one, to be honest. It's hard to look beyond Verstappen being quite a superstar that he is, but Loren Heinrich is also quite a driver as well. And considering what happened last time out, Philip Eng is going to be a crazy, crazy fast driver around here at Spa. But more importantly, Lewis, a lot of it is dependent on the draft. So even more so than the capabilities of these drivers, all of which are very similar, all very talented drivers. What they can make of from the draft is going to be extremely crucial in deciding who starts first, and maybe who knows who starts 20th, because that's the kind of impact that the draft can have here.
Yeah, and we're at the latter end of the championships. This is pretty big. We're seeing there the number 33 of Max Verstappen, who is leading this large train at the moment. He's being pushed a little bit by Danny Incadea. He's also got a little bit of slipstream as well from Lascar Artos, who was a very, very late sign-up into this. But the number 33 of Max Verstappen, who is heading this train, I'm not liking his positioning at the moment, because if he gets passed by Danny Incadea coming into the final chicane, it's going to mess up his lap, and then Incadea is in the best position to take pole position. Of course, behind him, Loren Heinrich. We know how fast Loren Heinrich is.
Early doors, though, still in qualifying, and it does take a couple of laps for these cars to get up to temperature. It was actually, the drivers were saying when we had a 10-minute qualifying that it was basically at 10 minutes where the car felt good. So really, this first 5-7 minutes, it's all about making sure we bring the tyres up to temperature in the right way and the brakes in the right way, and then we'll see those lap times tumbling later on. But as you say, I don't know whether Max Verstappen's positioning right now is particularly ideal.
No, and it could potentially get worse and worse and worse depending on how the session unfolds, because maybe he may end up in the midpoint of this pack. You're right, though, when it comes to the tyres. Remember back to the Nürburgring where it was quite late in the session where we're seeing the improvements come in. That said, it wasn't as late as we were expecting, because it kind of came in maybe halfway through the session, and then the final couple laps just weren't as fast as we were expecting. Seeing Max Verstappen, that is Danny Juncadella behind, and has got a decent gap to Loren Heinrich behind. Maybe Heinrich just backing off a little bit to get some sort of better room for slipstream on the next lap.
Let's not forget that Danny Juncadella and Max Verstappen raced together in the Daytona 24 Hours, the iRacing version, not the real version. These guys are effectively teammates, and so I wonder whether they will be working together as a twosome. One lap with Max ahead, one lap with Juncadella ahead. They know they're not going to hold each other up through the middle of the track, because of course you've got two sectors of the lap which are about slipstream. You've got one sector that is very, very technical, really. It's pretty medium speed, but ultimately you can really screw somebody's lap up if you make a mistake ahead of them, even if you've provided them a massive slipstream for the rest of the lap.
Yeah, I saw them bump drafting each other a little bit on this, and we saw that go very, very wrong for certain people back at Daytona in elsewhere. It can end very, very badly. It's a thing you don't really want to push that a little bit too far, but at the moment it was interesting to note that Max Verstappen's lap didn't count as far as I could see, and so that lap was basically just ruled off, and Sage Karam was the one who went up into pole position, instantly beaten by Verone. We were on board with Karam there, getting by some drivers with the slipstream on the run into Les Combes, thus showing that in this race we are going to see some crazy action towards that top end at the end of the Kendall Straight.
Danny Juncadella there running in too wide through Speaker's Corner, way off track, and that will have been a 1x, so this lap will not count for Juncadella, even though at the moment he is in the slipstream of Verstappen, and if they are working together, Verstappen would be expecting Danny Juncadella to be passing him through this next section towards Blanchimont and the chicane, so that Verstappen picks up the slipstream on the next lap. Now, this man's been incredibly impressive over the time that we've got to know him. Phil Dennis, both in the sim racing world, incredibly fast, but also he's a real world driver too, and therefore he is one to watch in this particular session.
Yeah, it was really impressive back at Snetterton, finished in second with Martheno. It was really an impressive drive. There's Rubens Barrichello back in the championship. We were excited to see him back, joining the grid for us here at Spa. Currently up in 7th position, 1.2 seconds off. That's not a bad way to start your session, especially when you're on the car at its slowest point. So obviously we'll expect to see some improvements from the entire field, not just Rubens, but good to see him on there and still feeling pretty pacey, it seems.
Yeah, really cool to see Rubens. I think he got himself up into the top 10 before we missed him for a couple of rounds, but fantastic to have him back. And as you say, decent pace, back with his teammate Jürgen Franke, who he shared a car with before. And now here is a slipstream and change of position. So we can see at the front of the shot, that was Juncadella getting ahead of Max Verstappen. Lorenzo Colombo here, who's moved from the 33 car where he teammated with Beneke to the 31. He's now with Freak Schotthorst, and he was getting passed by one of the Red Bull cars, but I'm not sure whether that is Philippe Eng. I imagine it is Philippe Eng. It is Heinrich, is it?
Yeah,
okay.
It is Heinrich. Yeah. Heinrich's looking pretty fast. I mean, I say that as if like, well, Heinrich's looking pretty fast this round. We know he is. He is very fast. All of the drivers on this grid are very fast. It's not just a basic ticket of, oh, well, you've got a bit of a name for yourself in the real world, so you can drive in this. Almost, I'd say 90% of the drivers on this grid are plenty capable of absolutely destroying me a lap on any circuit. So they are pretty good. And so Loren Heinrich just using the slipstream. I wonder if these two are just going to, maybe not as teammates, but just sort of work a little bit together in this session. Just because you hook up with someone, that's your partner for the session.
Yeah, we've only got about half the field who actually managed to set a time. So the other half have either got track limit issues, or in the case of Elias Sepanen, who we've seen right at the sharp end of qualifying, in the pits right now. So certainly something to have a look at as to why he is not on track, because if he had to reset back to the pits, get a tow or press escape, that means his session will be completely done.
That looked like a bit of a moment from Colombo there coming through Blanchimont, but yeah, you don't want to escape back to pit lane. If you're coming back to pit lane, you've got to drive in, no escaping. You're out of the session if done so. Now we're going to see some faster times come in. Sage Karam ahead of Lauren Heinrich. No real surprise that Heinrich jumps to the top of the session after overtaking. Note that Danny Juncadella is at the head of this field. He's got ahead of Max Verstappen. And as to your point with drivers not setting times at the moment, it is well known on iRacing that Spa is probably one of the nastiest circuits when it comes to track limits, because it's very, very harsh in some places, it's quite loose in others. And it's one of those ones that you really have to learn where you can exceed, where you can push the limit, and how far you can push it, because you run wide at Blanchimont even a little bit, and rightfully so, that's your lap done. It immediately cancels it. It's very harsh, as you should do. On the exit here as well, it can get you. So it's a really tricky corner, and I reckon we're going to see some drivers late in this session on a good time just pushing it a little bit too far.
Those drivers that have not set a time include Danny Juncadella, include Max Verstappen. Robert Wickens is part of that little group as well. Nick Yellowly, who we've seen quite a bit of. Raymond Pinheiro, and also Bobby Thompson and Dan Harper, who's, I think Harper's new to our grid. Harry Tinknell is back. Great to have Tinknell with us. I'm not quite sure what's going on with his team, whether he's entered under the wrong entry.
I think he has.
Oops!
Bless him. Obviously, he was one of the drivers, as I'm sure pretty much everyone on the grid did, one of the drivers that took part in the iRacing Bathurst 12 Hour at the weekend. Pretty sure most drivers were pretty exhausted departing there and moving from one classic track to some point in the world to yet another one, and most of the drivers seeming to gel with it straight away. Spa, thankfully, for a lot of these drivers, isn't a track they have to do like thousands and thousands of laps on, because weirdly enough, they've already done thousands and thousands in other things, and that information sort of translates.
Interestingly, these two are not on their fastest lap of the session. The other laps that they've set have not been allowed because they ran outside of track limits, but now they come across the line. Verstappen goes fastest. Danny Juncadella does not clock a time, so his lap was illegal, but Verstappen takes pole by 1.12 of a second over Aychen Guven, who's basically set his first lap, legal lap, I should say. Nicholas Verone doing a great job in the 94 car. Third position right now and consistently hitting the fastest lap of the race. We've got 3 minutes and 30 seconds remaining. That's enough for around 2 laps for these two. Max Verstappen handing over the slipstream to Danny Juncadella, and Max actually might have to back out of this one. Juncadella won't be wanting to lead this train because he hasn't got a lap time yet on the board.
No, they were using that slipstream up to Les Combes. I was curious to see that Max Verstappen pulled out very, very early rather than leaving it to Danny Juncadella to pull out at the very last moment. But you know, they're doing as they know, so fair enough. I'm not going to judge a real driver for doing something which, you know, I would do it slightly differently. You know, power to him. That's very wide from Max Verstappen. Obviously, this lap won't matter too much for him because he's behind. For Juncadella, he really needs to get a lap on the board at the moment, and Max Verstappen seems like he's going to have one last stab on it on that final lap. Decent time for him, of course, but I still would rule it out. There was someone off in the foreground there, which might be at the background of Rivage. Don't know who that was. It looked like it might have been a Red Bull.
Yeah, we're watching another of the Red Bull cars here. Verstappen goes through shot. This is Lauren Heinrich, who will share his car. Sorry, it's Philippe Eng, who will share his car with Sebastian Job. Philippe Eng right now is down in 9th position. Victor last time out eventually by just a 10.5 of a second. And it's been kind of a championship battle really between Philippe Eng, Sebastian Job and Aychen Guven and Joshua Rogers, because Beneke's just fallen apart whilst he hasn't had Verstappen alongside him. Different teammates pretty much each round. Lorenzo Colombo did a pretty good job the first time out, but then there was all kinds of tantrums and things like that.
Yeah.
And it seems as though this has calmed down a bit. The silly rules of cooling your tyres on the grass and clutch dragging and all that rubbish seems to have gone quiet for this one.
Yeah, Sage Karam up towards the top, and I am grateful to see not too much of that rubbish where we're seeing drivers, abusing certain things of, calling tyres the grass, brake dragging, all this lark. I'm glad to see that we don't have that in this. Everyone's behaving themselves very nicely, at least from what we can see. And with Beneke there, I would feel harsh on putting some of the poorer performances between the first round and now on his teammate, because let's level out here. Beneke hasn't been what we would expect Beneke to be like throughout this championship. There's been, like you say, there was a couple of tantrums and whatnot, and I hope that with Verstappen's return to the series that we see that kind of stuff stop and we see an excellent battle for the lead.
Let's just remind you then, Ayçan Güven leads this championship by 8 points over Lauren Heinrich, with Sage Karam a further 23 points back. We've got a couple of cars off the circuit. That's the 96 car, I think. So that's Phil Dennis retiring to the pits from 6th position, so he will not play any further part. He's about half second slower than Sage Karam, who has the pole position right now, a half a tenth ahead of Verstappen. Nicholas Verone got himself up into 3rd position. It's going to be a great run for Verone, and that will help Martin van Loosenoord in his championship challenge. And we watch Sage Karam, who's got a lot of cars ahead of him, to provide him a slipstream.
Yeah, obviously with Van Loosenoord and Verone, really important for them to qualify well, because this was a circuit that Van Loosenoord did so well in the fun race when we came here in the IRO 1s. Ended up taking the lead off of the start, finished that race in 3rd. So, maybe he could have won. He finished behind Job and Holtzman. But there could be a good result on the table. This is the penultimate round of the season as well, so this is the point where you can really turn around that championship.
Checkered flag is out. Here's Sage Karam trying to not get blocked by his teammate. In fact, he goes into the pits. Ayçan Güven was kind of in the way. Is Ayçan Güven going to improve his lap time as he comes across the line now? I'm not sure he will. Verstappen has stopped, so he will not take pole position. Lewis, you were wrong. We've got lots of people taking the checkered flag, but not very many improvements on this last lap, and it does look as though Sage Karam has taken the pole position over Max Verstappen by half a tenth of a second, by a very small margin, but a very, very impressive run. Now, watch out for Nicholas Verone. He is still running, as is Augusto Canapino. So we've got a couple of cars that have not yet taken the checkered flag. This 37 machine is a bit further back down. That's Bobby Thompson, who shares with Bo Albert. That'll be a fast car when Bo gets aboard. Bobby with a little less experience and comes into pit lane. So not so many people looking to improve. Checkered flag flying for these cars that have come across the line, but there was no improvements there. And indeed, that is it done then.
Yeah, Raul Hyman moved up towards 6th position, and Eng the last improvements in that session. So a couple of late laps of improvements, but nothing too much. Sage Karam, what a lap that was to stick it on pole position ahead of one small named Max Verstappen.
Oh, the Max Verstappen army will not be happy with not starting on the pole, but actually leading the race around here is probably not something you want to do in a 40-minute race, because you will be providing the slipstream and putting yourself under attack and pressure from everybody else.
Second position also might be quite good. Can't remember. I think. Oh no, it's pole position has the inside line into La Source, but still you can take that outside line, go around the outside, and maybe take that lead later in the lap.
Well, that's qualifying done. Race coming up next. Welcome back then. Here is the starting grid for our championship race. Sage Karam and Matt Backham will start on the pole position ahead of Max Verstappen and Maximilian Beneke. Nicholas Verone and Martin van Loosenor third. Lauren Heinrich and Graham Carroll in fourth. Archan Guven, Josh Rogers only in fifth position. Watch them progress. And then Raoul Hyman. Phil Dennis took seventh position. Augusto Canapino with Semi Matti Trogan eighth. Jack Crawford and Martheno in ninth. Philippe Eng only 10th position. Sebastian Job will have work to do in the second half of the race. Danny Ukudela 11th spot after providing slipstream to Max Verstappen. Bruno Spengler, good qualifying from him for Martin Cronquet in 12th. Lorenzo Colombo 13th. Gustav Grimbergus in 14th. Alexei Nesov in 15th position. His teammate this race, Gianno Viecchio. Will Trothaga in 16th. Rafael Marcello 17th. Sergio Sette Camara, the Formula E driver, in 18th position. Ross Gunn, GT driver, 19th. Matthias Besch 20th. Marius Zug 21st. Bats Gavissa in 22nd position. Dries Van Thor 23rd, and Bobby Thompson in 24th, just 1.3 back, not too bad. There's Bruno Senna, 25th position. David Beckham in 26th, and Lubov Oreskiniofia in 27th. Scott DeAndrews 28th in the Romain Grosjean car. Dan Harper 29th. Will Stevens in 30th position. Rubens Barrichello ended up in 31st spot. Bradley Philpott 32nd. Gabriel Bortello 33rd. Rudy Van Buren only 34th. World's fastest gamer. Nick Yellowly in 35th. James Headley in 36th. Tinknell in 37th. Fernand Hasberg 38th. And Daniel Morad in 39th spot. Right, let's get a quick word, if we can, with our pole position man, Sage Karam, taking the pole position ahead of Max Verstappen. Sage, what a pleasure to beat Max.
I mean, Max is really, really good in anything he drives. So I just kind of, put the perfect lap together and got lucky with some draft. That whole qualifying session, I think you saw a lot of guys jockeying around, trying to find the proper draft. So definitely got lucky with that and avoided the off tracks. That's kind of like the name of the game around here. It's really easy to get an off track. So just pleased with it. Obviously the draft is huge. So, the race, I don't think anybody's going to be really breaking away. I think, the name of the game is keep it on the dance floor and stay in the draft.
Were you working together with teammates to make that draft happen for you, or is it just luck of the draw?
Me and Guben were working. We were switching, going at El Rouge every lap. On that straight there, and I just kind of was able to put a clean lap together. And then on the last lap, he had a really good run on me. I gave him this position, and I thought he was gonna be able to take the pole away from me, but somebody spun in front of him and ended up screwing up his lap. So, like I said, there's a lot of good guys in this field, a lot of fast guys. It's gonna be a dogfight for sure.
Yeah, you're starting the race, so I'll let you log into the session. Thank you very much for chatting with us, Sage. Good luck.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Sage Karam also still strong in the championship, third position with a decent opportunity to still win that championship if everything falls the right direction, Lewis, because ultimately I guess he doesn't really have to worry too much about Max Verstappen for the championship because Max can't win it.
No, but still, you need to gain as many points as possible, and getting those extra 3 points for staying ahead of Verstappen and maybe taking the victory could be crucial next time out. You're absolutely right. He doesn't have to focus necessarily on where Max Verstappen is and maybe not take too much risk if it's in the dying moments of the race, but this is going to be a frantic one. Spa's an excellent choice for these, and it's going to be tough out there, that's for sure.
Going to be very interesting to see the likes of Philippe Eng in the first part of the race, handing over to Sebastian Job, who will have work to do. This way round is very, very interesting as we have a quick look at the Pro Driver Top 5. Guven starts, I think, P5 or something like that. Lauren Heinrich starts a little further ahead of him. Sage Karam on the pole position. Raoul Hyman, I think he got up to 6th by the end. But Philippe Eng missed a round, and therefore P5 a long way away from the win and effectively kind of out of championship contention.
He can still, it's one of those ones where it's mathematically possible, but not really.
Josh Rogers with a healthy advantage ahead of Graham Carroll and Sebastian Job. Matt Backham on the pole position in 4th position. Felix Ludding, I have no idea where Felix ended up in qualifying, or his teammate did. He is 5th in the championship, but really Josh needs to have a bad one to lose grip of the championship at the moment.
Yeah, it seems like realistically it's a proper 3-horse race in that between Rogers, Carroll and Joe. But it only takes one round for things to go slightly sideways. We've seen that so many times. Of course, Rogers and Ayhan Changüven, whilst they've won 3 races this season, they had quite a bad one a few rounds ago back at, I think it's Suzuka. They've had struggles, they've had issues, and there's, we're at crunch time in the championship. If they have an issue now, that could cost it.
Yeah, absolutely. We've just got a couple of minutes before we get racing for what is the penultimate round of our championship. We do have one more race at the end of March. And overall, Lewis, what's been your kind of feeling around this Pro Sim Series? I know you joined us a little bit after the beginning, but I'm sure you were watching heavily.
Of course, it's an excellent mix of, like we've said, with fun and championship. You've got those fun races, you've got the championship races, you've got all of the big names, the pro drivers, and as I said earlier, it's not just the big names of, for us sim races, it's like, wow, look at all these sim races names, and wow, look at all these pro drivers names, but it's that mix of those two that you really, at the moment, don't get anywhere else in sim racing, and it's a really unique feature of the championship. Naturally, it's the entire reason of its existence, but it is amazing to see all these huge names and new ones coming in each round.
Let's just have a quick word from Somil before we go racing here at Spa. What's the reaction been to qualifying, Somil, with Max Verstappen just missing out on the pole?
Dense. It's been dense, Ben. Everyone didn't quite expect Sage Cham to come in and set in such a brilliant lap time, and the gap was just incredible. But there's just a great sense of excitement and anticipation to see what Max can do from P number 2, because he hasn't been able to get pole position here, of course. Sage Karam putting in an excellent lap, but the race could be something different. There's just a great sense of buzz. People have been waiting for this for a long time. They've been waiting to see Max in action, and they've been waiting to see the Formula 3 race for quite a while. They've been entertained by the fun one. Now it's time for the final race.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting to see the spread of the different teams, Somil, at the head of the field. There's not really a chance for teams to work together because they're all so spread out.
Exactly, and at the end of the day, it's each team for themselves as well. So towards the end, it becomes very tricky for them to work as a group, as a unit. For now, it's just about what they can do from this race and what they can maximize from this one.
We'll be catching up with Somil throughout the race, so if you want your chat to be mentioned on the commentary, then make sure you join the VCO YouTube channel, and Somil will be there to welcome you. We've got most of the cars now on the grid. We are not far away from getting this penultimate round of the championship underway here from Circuit Spa-Francorchamps in the Ardennes forest of Belgium. It's a lovely day, which is very rare. Oh, we've got a car that was stalled at the back of the field, and that has caused a few cars, including Jimmy Broadbent, to go up and over. That would be Ferdinand Habsburg, who was caught out there. The guys at the very tail of the field. Someone running incredibly wide through the first corner. Max Verstappen has not managed to overcome Sage Karam yet, but of course the drag up the hill and then all the way to Le Camp will be to the advantage of everybody except Sage Karam, who leads up the hill. Verstappen in the orange car tucks into the slipstream. We've got Loren Heinrich out of position a little bit because he'd already got an overlap with Nicolas Verone, who's in that kind of green and yellow machine. And look at how the slipstream is working. They're all very bunched up. Oh, and I think that was Ayhan Changüven who got taken out. And he's taken out a huge amount of our top-end runners. It was early in the braking zone where the car was facing the wrong direction with its rear end missing. And that's a disaster for the championship, especially for Joshua Rogers.
Yeah, I saw Heinrich in there as well. And that is absolutely massive for the championship. I said about it only takes one race for it to go badly, and boy oh boy did it go badly. We would have to look at replays for that for hours to work out what happened. That was crazy stuff, a lot of risk. Either way, focusing on the positives at the front end, Verstappen leads as things stand. Karam in behind, Verone as well. Great start from him just to keep involved with everyone, but messy stuff. Some people are very lucky to get through that.
I'm afraid we lost Rubens Barrichello as well on that first, I think on the start line is where Rubens got caught out. Will Stevens also in the pits. Loren Heinrich is in the pits as well. So Heinrich was also taken out. I'm surprised to see Ayhan Changüven not reset back to the pits, but I imagine there are quite a few cars that will try and crawl back to the pits rather than reset and get a tow as Verone takes to the grass to get down the inside of Sage Karam. before Blanchimont and take second position, but Sage Karam looking to take that position back again into the braking zone at the bus stop chicane. And there's a good battle going on for fourth position between Bruno Spengler, who I said had a good qualifying, and Augusto Carapino. Here's the replay.
Yeah, let's take a look. I think there's contact, and you see the 92 of Ian Changuven go straight on. So lucky not to collect anyone coming across. But as he came across the road, everyone was backing off behind. You saw a car flying off in the background. That was absolute chaos. The crash was happening in avoidance of the 92. Oh, just clumsy stuff, and people desperate to work their way up as quick as they can on lap 1.
We do have real-life race control. They'll be identifying who made contact with Archen Guven, who put him into that spin, and race control will be deciding exactly how to punish them. It's not down to iRacing, as we've got a new leader momentarily. Nicholas Verone runs side by side with Max. Oh, huge netcode there. He was nowhere near him, and Verstappen's been put into the wall.
That was action at a distance, and there's some further contact. The number 7, that's Marius Zug, that's made contact as well. Race done for Verstappen. You do not like to see that. That was pretty obvious.
And the Marius Zug was in the middle of the track being absolutely pummeled by loads of cars, including Philippe Eng in the other Red Bull car. So basically all of our championship contenders are in pit lane right now. Lauren Heinrich and Graham Carroll, Philippe Eng and Sebastian Job, and Archen Guven, amazingly, is the best of those 3 runners who are fighting it out for the championship. It is hugely advantage to Sage Karam right now. He needs to keep himself cool and collected. He's sitting second behind Nicholas Verone, and at the moment collecting a whole bundle of points.
Yeah, at the moment, if I was Sage Karam, I'd be cruising up to the back and just absolutely sitting there on Verone and just trying to keep everyone at a distance behind and just doing what I'm doing, and no worry past that. It was some good moves for Verone to take the lead, but
here's what happened.
It's just a shame.
So Verone coming around the outside. He's got the inside line for the next corner. Plenty of room given by Max Verstappen. It's difficult to see whether that was netcode or not. Verstappen did a great job to get himself away from the field, but then he rejoined and right into Zug's path, and Zug then reversed back into everybody else's. But for me, from that angle, it didn't look like there was any contact whatsoever. Here we go again. I wonder if we can see perfect view to see if there is actually any contact between these two. But certainly Max Verstappen is at fault if there was, because he knew that Verone was there. Miles away.
I will
Huge
say
netcode.
the rejoin here leaves an awful lot to be desired. That is not a good rejoin. Obviously his car was pretty toast. You can see sometimes it loses a wheel and comes back. That's just sinking things. So his car actually didn't lose a wheel in that scenario. It came back, but yeah, you don't like to see that, and it's a real shame for what was going to be quite a great race.
Bruno Senna's just come out of pit lane, having made a stop. Jack Crawford also, and Elias Sepanen. Now, remember, these guys do have the ability to fast repair. They have one fast repair, which in theory allows you to repair your car and then hand it over to your teammate with a brand new car. That's the idea of it. But unfortunately, for many, it means they are having to use that now, and therefore what happens next, who knows. Interesting to note that while some cars like Philippe Eng is back out onto circuit, Lauren Heinrich is saying he's out the race. He's not going to get back in.
Yeah, also, Verone has completely dropped off the radar. He did come in to serve a drive-through, and I think from that has had issues. Not sure what that was for, maybe a jump start or something, but either way, he's been into the pit lane already, was 8th at the last time of my calling. I don't know quite where he's gone on the timing tower. He's down in 19th place. 1.8 second lead Sage Karam has at the moment. This could not be going better for the number 16.
Absolutely falling into the hands of Karam and Backham here. Lorenzo Colombo is the next car. Colombo obviously a Team Redline driver and replaced Max Verstappen in at least 2 rounds, I think. He's with Freak Schotthorst for this particular race. Freak, actually interestingly, Freak being considered a sim racer, although has done some real world racing, and most of his father and his uncle and many others have as well. Fastest lap, by the way, to Bruno Spengler, who's in 3rd position. Now, Bruno has never really got a hang of this Formula 3 car until today, and Spengler and Kroenke are well up there.
Yeah, what a mad lap time. Well done to Bruno Spengler. Of course, in the real world, is a very well-known driver. Has won championships galore and basically everything between. Doesn't matter whether it's touring cars or whatever. Takes part in whatever and gets along with it. Today, though, at Spa, a circuit that you know a little bit, clearly one that is working out for him. As we're seeing the battle between a Triple Eight, that's Will Tregertha behind the wheel, trying to get by Grimbergis towards Lecom. Hopefully will be clean through here. The Triple Eight goes around the outside, and Will Tregertha, who was annoying one of the people helping the series, Ed Trevelyan Johnson, by posting Pepe's on his server earlier, seems to be doing quite well in the car.
This number 17, Raymond Pinheiro, at 47, in 13th position, with David Beckman and Daniel Morad behind, and Robert Wickens on the tail of that. Great to have Robert back with us. I think he did miss the last round. I can't remember exactly, but he represented Canada in the VCO Cup of Nations a couple of weekends ago. Was that just one weekend ago? I can't remember now. But Robert Wickens really getting a hang of this sim racing, even though he's got a very different setup to the majority of the rest of them, using effectively a handbrake to do his braking, and trying to cadence that must be very tricky when you don't get the feedback and the kickback you would do from a foot pedal. But he's training himself to drive like that, and incredibly impressive it is too. So he sits in 16th. By the way, he did that in a rallycross race, which I think is even more remarkable. Yeah,
absolutely insane. Now, see, the thing with that is, well, and I spoke about this before, is that if you're using that, if you've got all of your hands, because you're obviously having to take one hand off the wheel a lot, I wonder if you have to run the force feedback quite a bit low, which means you're losing that side of things as well as taking hands off wheels and stuff. So it's like double trouble, effectively, as Grimbergis is going around the outside, but there's not going to be a way there. He's going to be a bit more patient here and try and make something into Lecom, I think. I think Bruno Spengler just got the fastest lap again, instantly beaten though by Alexei Nesov in the fastest lap chart. So this group is the one moving fastest on the circuit at the moment. You can tell, because remember not too long ago I said Sage Karam had a 2 point whatever it was lead, 1.2, cancel that, it is coming down.
Yeah, and this is going to be a nice little group of cars, I think, and will allow Sergio Sette-Camera, who's in 5th, and Alexei Nesov 4th, to kind of escape. Because they really are having a bit of a ding-dong battle. Will Tregertha leading this group, and when he hands over to Setas, that should be a very, very quick car. Tregertha certainly in some heights that he has not been used to so far. I'm trying not to be rude about him, because it's not fair to be rude, because he's a very, very fast driver. But Setas are one of the very best in this car. And they've got Scott D. Andrews in the Romain Grosjean car. Good evening, Romain, if you are... I suppose it's good morning for you if you are watching, but you probably are inside an Indy car right now testing. I think he's at Laguna Seca today on his whistle-stop tour of the US. He's been a great supporter of this championship, and whenever he could, even with burnt hands after Bahrain's accident, he still joined us. So... sad not to have you with us, but I hope you're enjoying some real world action. Now, number 6, Robert Wickens, unfortunately off the track. Looks like the rear wing is slightly bent as well, or maybe that's my eyes.
No, it's tracking wrong.
Right. So he can go back to the pits and get a fast repair, but it does mean he'll need to be careful for the rest of the race when he does hand over to his teammate.
Yes, the problem is, like, we spoke about this, I think it was at Snetterton when someone was involved in a crash there, and they got their fast repaired just at the right point, because they had that incident in the pit window. So they came in, they hand over to the teammate, got the fast repair, moved on, all was well and good. Whereas here, unfortunately, outside, is going to have to come to the pit lane twice. Is there going to be contact here, just squeezing a little bit, and well, you know, whatever happened, but he was squeezing just a touch there, running down the hill.
Are we allowed to mention netcode? I don't know if that's like an illegal word or not, but that was horrific.
Depends where
it was miles away.
I'm not sure what the ruling is, so we'll play it safe, or I will. I mean, you do whatever you want, mate.
Alexei Nesov, by the way, 4th position ahead of Sergei Sette-Camera. Nesov with a new teammate. Patrick Holtzman was his teammate, previously a Red Bull driver, moved to Team Redline and has been being naughty over the last couple of weeks. So he's had a 90-day suspension from iRacing, not allowed to even log in. His login has been basically taken away. So actually, Giovanni Vecchio, great to have him with us. Sounds Italian, not Italian at all, actually German. And we do have a lot of investigations going on right now, and look at that for some bump drafting.
Now, I've had this before when I was driving once. When, so say for example, being in the seat of Sage Karam, and you're seeing these drivers closing. You're thinking, I'm doing everything that I can to go as fast as I can, and then you look behind you and you see 2 people a bump draft, and you think, oh well, that's a bit rude then. And then you see that one of them, oh wait, it's my teammate. Why is my teammate helping someone to the back of me? That is so frustrating, but that's how it goes in the race. Bruno Spengler assisting Lorenzo Colombo to close to the back of the stage cam. They're all looking for their own prize winner. They're all looking for their own race win, and you have to say, why wouldn't you push someone up the back? It is curious to see a bit of bump drafting in Formula 3 cars, but if you can do it, give it a go, but it can end very quickly in a very bad way.
We spoke to Rudy Van Buren last time out, so that was his first round in the VCO ProSim Series. Van Buren, really more of an R-Factor 2 kind of driver, lots of experience in other platforms, less experience in iRacing, but it looks like him and Ollie Packle are getting up to speed slowly. 19th position right now, but ahead of Raul Hyman. So Raul Hyman, another of our championship challengers that obviously was affected by the earlier crash, and he is down in 20th spot.
You see his front wing as well is slightly up on the right-hand side of it. That side that we're focusing on there, just bent. It will be quite hard, quite uncomfortable drive, a bit understeery, particularly through left-handers. But it shouldn't be too bad, realistically. At least the wing is still there. It still is intact. I thought that the 31 of Lorenzo Colombo was being spun out there at the final corner as Bruno Spengler just got a little bit too close. But we are within a second now, so there is big slipstream heading the way of Colombo. And our race for victory is once again igniting.
Fastest laps being pummeled in by Nicholas Verone, by the way. Now down in 14th position, our one-time leader. But he is absolutely on a charge after his pit stop. We still don't know why he made that pit stop, as Bruno Spengler once again draws onto the tail of Lorenzo Colombo. There is Bruno in the inset, has absolutely no interest in overtaking whatsoever. He's just pushing Lorenzo Colombo along. Colombo will be very, very happy with that, but they're not actually gaining massively on Sage Karam, who's alone. If you look at the timing screens, if you do have timing, vco.org/live timing, if you need another screen, the gaps come down by like 1 or 2 tenths, but not massively.
No, I was surprised it come down as much as I thought there. I mean, these two are quite clearly significantly faster at the moment, considering that gap has been coming down further and further. If they get into a battle here, don't count out the likes of Nessel, or to be fair, don't even count out the likes of Seto Camera and that behind, because the gap can disappear so very, very quickly, especially battling around here. You can go side by side, corner after corner, and that is not conducive to good lap times. So we can see those gaps disappear fairly quickly. Sage Karam's done about as good as he possibly could, but unfortunately it just wasn't enough. They are closing in behind, but we are getting closer to that pit stop window. Whoa, that is quite wide there from Colombo. Amazing he didn't lose that much time. That's a bit concerning.
Yeah, he didn't really lose any momentum at all. No wonder it's beneficial to drive on the grass in iRacing. That was a gravel trap. They should have basically stopped the car dead. Bruno Spengler does draw onto the tail of Lorenzo Colombo. Colombo goes defensive, though, into the braking zone. And again, Bruno Spengler decides against passing. Constantina's up very tight through the bus stop chicane, and as they accelerate out of the bus stop chicane, they spread out once more. Just a quick chat or a quick shout out, I should say, to Rick Keller, who I knew as a very young boy at the Zandvoort Masters of F3, where my father used to commentate on it. Thank you very much for joining us, Rick, and thanks for your wishes. In fact, let's get down to Somil, who's been monitoring our chat. I presume you've got lots of very grumpy Max Verstappen fans.
Yeah, you're actually right, Ben. The viewership has sadly dropped since Max fell down. It shows you the kind of star power he had. A collective groan when that accident happened. Meanwhile, drafting going on. We shall come back to that after we focus on this.
No, it's all good. Nothing's happening with that move. We've seen that a couple of times every lap, and nothing happened.
Right, so a bit of a collective groan when Verstappen went out, and it's kind of understandable. He was very much the fan favourite, but there's a great sense of excitement about all the battles up top, especially about Colombo, you know, because Colombo used to drive with Beneke in that number 33 machine, and everyone is quite intrigued to see what he's doing at this particular stage. And also a bit of a question about where all the drivers are from, and many people are quite fascinated to see that there are drivers from all across the globe competing in this particular race. And internet issues do happen, but just the sheer spectacle, the logistics of this is fascinating. Quite a few people on the chat. Fun to see.
Yeah, Lithuanian drivers. We've got Kazakhstani drivers joining us this week as well. Obviously, drivers based in America, plenty of those. Not quite sure if we've got any Australian-based drivers.
Oh, we do have Bo Albert.
Yeah, absolutely. And then plenty, obviously, in Europe. And there's Sage Karam from America. You can tell it's America because it's bright and sunny. Whereas everybody else in Europe is obviously bathed in darkness right now. Sage with all of his various trophies. It's a good old setup he's got there, and in his shorts as well. One of the benefits of racing and sim racing, you don't have to wear silly full overalls. Although some competitions still make you do it, don't they, Lewis?
I was once chatting with Dennis Lind, who is in this race, who when he was a Lamborghini factory driver, one time we were on Discord, we were all having a conversation. He didn't drive in it, thankfully. But he put on some race suits, and by some race suits I mean he put on 7 race suits and then sat down and said that it was the hottest experience that he'd had. Like, it was grim. You know, obviously that's a bit extreme, taking it a bit too far, but I think racing in your room in a race suit can be pretty hard work. But you know, some people do it, some people fancy it. Watch this, watch Sage Karam, by the way, here. He pulls over to the right hand side. Why doesn't Lorenzo Colombo follow him?
Well, if Lorenzo Colombo tries to follow him, being pushed along by Bruno Spengler, that would almost certainly become an accident because the connection between Spengler and Colombo. So actually not particularly quite intelligent driving from Sage Karam. Very kind of IndyCar-esque, as you see on the ovals, trying to break the slipstream and all that. The gap is down to half a second. Now, Sage Karam will be handing over to Matt Backham. Lorenzo Colombo will be... Oh, Lorenzo Colombo's made a mistake. He's gone wide. He's just about kept it out of the barrier. But he's handed over the second position to Bruno Spengler, who will soon be handing over to Martin Kroenke. We may see a Kroenke on the podium. And it's been a long, long time that people haven't been able to say that.
Yeah, that was very much heart and mouth moment, just running down the hill, pulled it a bit too far over to the right-hand side, and the car basically just got beached. He is unbelievably lucky not to end up in the wall. Watch this. There he goes. Just puts 2 wheels on the green bit of concrete, and that just basically just flattened it out. You know, you're talking like basically you're on the T-tray at the bottom of the car, and yeah, that did not look fun. Thankfully, though, with sim racing, your back doesn't pay the price for that.
If it does, if you've got a D-box.
Yeah, it does. Right.
We are waiting to hear from Race Control because they are investigating quite a few incidents, including that first lap accident that, remember, put Aychan Guven to the tail of the field. Guven is now in 21st position. There are points all the way down to 30th spot and their prize money. So really, kind of every point counts. Sebastian Job, by the way, has just taken over from Philippe Eng. They are at the very tail of the field, but they do have a point for 30th position. So Job has now got some work to do. That's their 3rd pit stop, would you believe, of the race. And now we're seeing quite a few drivers jumping into the pits to hand over to their sim professional.
Yeah, this is the kind of race for the likes of Joe, Rogers, etc., Carroll, everyone. If they want to finish decently in the championship, this is the round where damage limitation is going to be key, and just getting yourself in position. We are looking at a very different championship than what we were expecting going into the final round in a few weeks' time, just about a month's time, towards the end of March. It's going to be wildly different in that final round, just because of how everything's gone this race. And it can go even further different with all the penalties and stuff we're expecting for certain drivers. No idea how this is going to look, and so you've just got to finish as high up as possible. For the likes of Joe, if you can finish 5-10 positions ahead of Josh Rogers, that closes the gap down. Who was that who was crashing on pit lane entry? Someone decided to enter the wall.
Yeah, it did look like somebody crashed in the pits, hadn't they?
It did. I wonder if that is the car which is the number 4, currently Bruno Senna in the car there. I wonder if he escaped to pit lane and all that. It's a tricky pit lane entry, isn't it? Because the walls on inside it's so narrow.
Yeah, but a pit lane that everyone knows very, very well, and actually you're not really approaching it that fast because you've got to get yourself through the chicane before you get into the actual narrow part of pit lane.
No.
Josh Rogers, by the way, in 20th position. Who was that?
That was Colombo. He just disconnected and came back.
Okay, so he's got internet issues, but he will be handing over to Shotos pretty soon. Alexei Nezov, by the way, up to 3rd position. Lorenzo Colombo dropping down the order, but probably due to his connection rather than anything else, and will be moving around. Oh dear, and Bruno Spengler nearly missing pit lane as well. Sage Karam is in the pit, so our front 2 are in the pits. Alexei Nesov brings his car into pit lane. Sergei Sete Camera, therefore, will inherit the lead and basically be out on his own, I think, for this next lap as our front 3 come into pits. Nicholas Verone also now in pit lane. He'll hand over to Martin van Loosenord after an incredible stint. And basically that means everybody's done at least one pit stop, other than Sergei Sete Camera.
Colombo fans glad to see he's in the pit lane and escaped. Shotos will be able to get in. That was scary. That was really scary. There is Sage Karam passing over to his teammate Mac Backen. It would be great to see him on the podium if possible, but still, 17 minutes left in the race. It's going to be a long one. Are we going to see something as close as what we saw at the Nürburgring, just a 10th separating Philip Eng and Ian Changuven at the end of that race? It was 0.182 at the end of 40 minutes. I think around here we could be given that a run for its money.
So Backham into the car that was leading, Martin Kroenke into the car that was second, and Gianni Vecchio into the car that was third. Now Vecchio we haven't really spoken or seen very much of because he was at the tail of our fun race, and this is the first time that we've seen him in the Pro Sim Series. That is Ross Gunn, by the way, who's been given a 10-second penalty after the race, the 99 car. We don't know what collision that was that Gunn caused, but he wasn't high enough, I don't think, to have caused the collision with Ian Changuven. That was somebody a bit further at the sharp end, so it's still waiting to see. Your leaderboard is correct, by the way. Sergio Sete Camera is still leading. But I don't know whether he's going to get into the pits and get his driver change done and get out the pits. Remember, the pit lane is very long before that pit lane shuts, so it could be a bit tricky as we watch a replay here.
Yeah, Salvatore. Oh, is this the car that crashed on pit lane entry? Because this was Bruno Senna who was behind the wheel at this point. Let's see what happens. No, we're okay. Okay, I think it might have just been something going wrong. It's fine. We're okay.
It's all fine.
We can all breathe now that there wasn't a crash on pit lane entry. And I have seen that before. I have seen people. If you come in wrong, Jimmy Broadbent will know too well of this because one of his teammates did it in 2016 at a 24-hour race at Spa. When we came into the pit lane, clipped the wall wrong coming into pit lane, and did 90-degree turn, blocked the pit lane entry, proper Austin Powers move. It took about 3 or 4 minutes to actually get out of the way. Quite painful to watch. 30-second stop and go penalty for the 11 car. So that was in the first stint of the race, James Headley. He's handed over now to Andrea Butcher, and they're down in 29th spot. So I'm imagining that was the car to cause the accident. I'm guessing still. I kind of know what colour it was, and it's not the car we're watching right now, by the way. But they were pretty high up the field, so it could well have been James Headley that ended up causing a collision with Ian Changuven. Guven's now handed over the car to Josh Rogers, and they're 21st position with the Canapino Semi-Matti Trogan car just ahead of them. So some very, very fast drivers still trying to make their way up through the field. I think it may well have been the number 93 of Raoul Hyman at the time that made contact with the back of Ian Changuven. Could be very wrong on that, but I think that might be the case. Not 100% sure, but it's one thing that with that incident is that they are not just investigating one incident, because in there was 3 or 4 different crashes that, whilst avoiding the main incident with Ian Changuven being fired across the circuit, there were other things that happened in there as people were avoiding, people tripped over each other. That's the hard one.
Right, let's have a quick word with one of our drivers that has just handed over to his teammate Jeremy Boeteloop. Here is Dries van Thor. First experience of the VCO Pro Sim Series. Dries, how was it for you?
Yeah, well, I enjoyed it a lot. Unfortunately, we got disqualified. I rolled I rolled 1 or 2 meters ahead at the start, and I got a black flag for that. We tried to ask to take it away because I didn't really gain a position, but yeah, it is what it is. And I enjoyed the race. I enjoyed some practice laps before. I have to still practice a bit because I'm a bit off, but it was fun.
Is this a relatively new thing for you then, iRacing?
Well, when the pandemic started last year, there were some events which I took part, which I enjoyed as well. But I think since I drove now, it has been, I think, almost half a year. So it was a bit rusty at the beginning, but yeah, well, like I said, I enjoyed it. I still have to practice a bit, but maybe I should like make it a bit more of a common thing during the week to try to, when I get invited to those events, to at least be somewhere close to it.
You need so much commitment, as we've seen from so many of these drivers, to get themselves up to this pace, hours and hours of the day. Have you got a second simulator just behind you there? You've got another race seat. Have you been swapping race seats?
No, that's actually my my gaming/work desk. More
nice.
gaming at the moment actually because of COVID. But no, that's just like a
wheelie chair.
A wheelchair, something like that.
Well, Dries, thank you very much for joining us. I'm sorry that you got disqualified, for you and for Jeremy Bouteloup, but hopefully we'll see you in the last round in a couple of weeks.
Perfect, thank you very much. I'm looking forward already.
Dries van Thor there, unfortunately, teammate to Jeremy Bouteloup, but out of the race, and that is a change for 6th position, I think. Tommy Husgaard moving ahead of what should be the Romain Grosjean car and Thomas Petitjean car. Scott DeAndrews took over from Grosjean in that car, and now we've got Przemysław Malek Lemonek who is in that car as well. And more news from race control. They're firing through, and just as I thought, Lewis, the 50 car with a 20-second penalty for after the race for being outside the pit window.
Yeah, just pushed it a little bit too far according to this. It was 16 seconds outside of the pit window. We were told by race control that the way it works here is, because of certain systems and stuff, it's about where you exit in comparison to the pit lane. It's not about getting in before the pit window closes. You actually have to leave pit lane. The time that we get for pit lane closing is the exit of pit lane. So you must leave pit lane before that time is up. Obviously 16 seconds out, that could have just been like a longer pit stop or whatnot, maybe taking a little bit of damage, who knows. But either way, just a little bit outside of it, and they are getting the penalty to pay the price. Bit of a shame, but easy mistake.
That was Sergio Sette Camera, so that was the guy effectively who waited one lap too long, took the lead for the race, handed over to Pablo Lopez. They are running in 7th position, in fact, in our shot there, and within shooting distance, really, of Tommy Husgaard in 5th position. But unfortunately, with that 20-second penalty, that will drop them way down the field. And will be benefiting those that are still trying to get themselves some points after various chaoses at the start of the race. Race control still working through all of that. Matt Backham leads in the car that he's taken over from Sage Karam by 1.5 seconds, so outside of slipstream zone. Bruno Spengler gave his car to Martin Kroenke second. He's 3.3 ahead of the car of Gianni Vecchio, who shares with Netov. We didn't really see that car. Effectively another red line car. And then Freak Schothorst in 4th position, taking over from Lorenzo Colombo. That really is the closest battle, I think, because Schothorst is within a second of Vecchio and therefore could get himself back up into 3rd position.
It's quite bizarre to see, though, how big of a gap the Coanda guys have pulled out over that pit stop sequence, because it was quite close before we went into it, but now Mac Backham leading by 1.7 seconds. They're 5 seconds clear of the next car, and that's a very impressive pit lane sequence between the pair of them. Obviously, getting up to speed with the car instantly helps that. You know, Mac Backham and Kroger are well experienced sim races, as are, you know, all of these sim drivers, but they've got their time in the sim. They're not sort of fussed when they get in the car of like, oh, can I push it to the limit? They're just like, well, yeah, I know where the limit is, so I'm going to get straight on it. And they've turned it around absolutely beautifully to pull out that gap this early in their run. Beautiful stuff, and it should mean that they're going to be fairly comfortable. That battle for the podium is not done by any stretch of the imagination.
Let's turn our attention quickly to the championship. Josh Rogers leading coming into this round by some 17 points over Graham Carroll. Josh Rogers right now sits down in 20th position, so he will get points for 20th spot, whereas Graham Carroll, unfortunately, I think, did not get back into the car. No, so they retired out the race. that will be 0 points for Graham Carroll. He will stay on 162. Sebastian Job was a single point behind Graham Carroll. Now, they are back out on the circuit, Job and Eng, and so actually Job and Eng will move up ahead of Graham Carroll. They're 25th, so that's enough for a couple of points. A handful enough to get them ahead of their Red Bull Racing Esports teammate. Then Matt Backham is 4th in the championship, obviously now leading the race, so that'll be a healthy chunk of points, but I think it'll only help them get close to Josh Rogers. I don't think they'll move into the head of, or he will move into the head of this particular championship. Felix Luding is the next man in the championship down, and Felix Luding is also not very high up if I'm looking at my entry list. Can't see him actually. Oh, down at 23rd.
The thing is though with Rogers is, because I'm following your points, the actual gap that he will have to the next car will be much shorter, but he will be pulling out over Carroll and over Joe by obviously quite a bit here. But realistically what it's going to do is it's almost going to make it look, going into the final round, like a 2-horse race between Josh Rogers in the sim side of things and our race leaders at the moment, Matt Backham, who they're going to jump up. They're only going to be 7 points short by my calculations at the moment, only 7 points short. The thing is with Rogers though is he's going to probably move up a couple of extra spots, get himself another couple of points, maybe move 10 points clear going into the final round. He's in quite a comfortable spot, but still, you never know when things can go wrong.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's going to basically drop the 2 Red Bull cars out of championship contention. And it will be Coanda versus Coanda for our final rounds. And I don't know really what you do when you've got 2 Coanda cars having the ability to take the victory, especially when at least 3 of them will be in the same house. So that's going to be quite a tense evening, I think, in the Coanda household when we get to the end of March and we get to our final round. Here is a decent little dice a bit further down the field. I think that was quite an easy pass, actually, by the looks of things. And that was Freak Schothorst getting past Gianni Vecchio. So that was for 3rd spot.
They can't fight too hard here, because if they do, we could be looking at a 1-2-3 for Coanda, because Tommy Osgaard's not too far behind, and if they do battle hard, I think they are dropping bit by bit back into the clutches of the Coanda man. But yeah, things are looking good for the podium for this battle to the end of the race.
So change and 3rd position. Let's have a quick break from the racing action as Gianni Vecchio comes back at Freak Schothorst, and this is effectively 2 Team Redline cars fighting over the same piece of tarmac. Just having a quick look as to see who's going to come out of this one. Down the inside, Schottles takes a position back again, so holds the position, I should say. Let's quickly go to Bruno Senna. First time in the VCO ProSim Series, so fantastic to have Bruno with us this evening. Thank you very much for joining us, Bruno. Lovely living room and trophy cabinet. That is amazing. How have you found it?
Yeah, it was fun. I was a bit frustrated because obviously I had a little oops in the start where my car was in neutral, so don't do that when you're starting your race, kids. And then so I lost all the good work in qualifying. I lost it, and then in the race it was crazy. Everybody was quite aggressive today, so I got lots of penalty points very quickly. And the funniest thing was that at this time when I was going to switch to my pro sim driver. As I go into the pit lane, someone decided to go into the pit lane from maybe the wall. I'm not sure exactly where he was planning to go into the pit lane there, but he was going basically the wrong way. So we both ended upside down, and that was the race over. But it was fun while it lasted.
So we did wonder whether there'd been an incident, and my co-commentator said you crashed in the pits, which wasn't very fair on you. You did, but it wasn't your fault.
No, maybe you can look at the replay later, but yeah, he was. I think he was going to the pits on the bottom of the hill. I think that was his aim.
Bruno, have you done much iRacing competitively like this?
No, not at all. I've done a race with Rubens in their free car, which was a lot of fun with all the drivers. This was super mega fun, and I had a bit more time to prepare for that one. I found out about this race today, so obviously not much time to prepare. And other than that, I have done a couple of races. I think 25 races in total in our racing online. So it's I'm not a professional. I need to get a bit more practice in, but the level is so high, man. These guys are going so fast.
Well, Bruno, it's fantastic to have you with us. Thank you very much for joining us, and maybe we'll see you on the final round in a couple of weeks' time.
Hopefully. Thank you.
All right, Bruno Senna there. Great to have Bruno with us. Always such a likeable chap and enjoying his F3 racing. So, Lewis, you were kind of half right with what happened to him.
But now we find out that it was him who stalled on the start. There we go. We found that's that one answered. The question from the start of the race as to who stalled on the start and caused a little bit of chaos back there. It's Bruno Senna. But at least we're getting answers to loads of questions now.
It's all right because Bruno and myself were in the same boat. I did that on Tuesday night in my local league. So forgot to put it into first gear. Drop the clutch. Just rev the nuts off it.
I've done that before. I was on my... don't ever do this. I was on my phone on the start of a race. Didn't realise the lights had come on. They went out and I was not ready. Don't go on your phone when getting ready for a race. Bit of a battle on the right-hand side of your screen is, I think that was Josh Rogers who's got by Liebert as well. So he has worked up, so that's a couple of extra points for him. Rogers moving up to 18th, that's an extra 2 points. He's nearly 10 points clear of Mac Backham if they finish where they currently are. I think it would be 9, but not 100% sure. Don't count on my maths. But he just needs to keep chipping away, keep getting whatever positions that he can. Because even if he can finish, say 15th, that's still points that will just make the next round that little bit easier. There's Mac Backham leading the race at the moment, 1.3 seconds of a lead at the moment. White flag is in the air. It is the final lap of the race at the moment. We still have it as a Coanda 1-2, but Tommy Osgaard, who's in 5th position, could potentially make it a Coanda 1-2-3. This could be pretty tight. We watch as they rise up the hill. Sage Karam, Mac Backham, such a good opening stint in the first part of the race for Sage Karam Sommel. And same for Bruno Spengler, but that pit stop sequence was what really turned it around.
Yeah, exactly, just moving in the favour of Sage Karam and Mac Backham right there, and they've just cemented their lead very much so. Could have been a more closer battle, but honestly, what a textbook performance it has been from Backham and Karam so far. Just the ideal, not the most entertaining, but certainly a clinic.
There's Van Loosenord dropping outside of the top 10. The 89 of Visser and Koch moving up into the top 10. Just an easy slipstream move, but not one that will be done just yet because that final run into the chicane will make things a little bit easier. Still 1.2 seconds in the lead of the race, so no need to worry about that too much. The battle for the podium is fairly close, but I just don't think it's going to happen. Here's 16th, the number 16 car, the leader of the race, 1 second clear. Still, that gap is coming down. Not long left in this race, just a few more corners to wrestle this car around and take what will be a well-deserved victory for Mac Backham, looking to fire himself into championship contention. It's desperate to do so because what a run it would be. We're looking for Coanda against Coanda when it comes to that title chase. Just a few more corners to go. Ben, what a drive.
Yeah, it's been a great qualifying from Sage Karam, and now handing over to Matt Backham, who's just been solid at the head of the field. Just a couple of corners remaining. He's been chased down by Martin Kroenke. What a feeling that would have been, but the checker flag falls, and it is Matt Backham who takes the victory at Spa-Francorchamps. Thanks to Sage Karam, his teammate as well. You could see the smile and what it means to him in the corner on the right-hand side. And still this battle rages on further down. Martin Van Loosenord having a great comeback drive, racing alongside the 89. Who's going to get it across the line? I think Beitske Visser just manages it with, Niels Koch in that car and just manages to win that little battle for 10th spot. As we turn our attention a little bit further down, this is Olli Pakala, who took over from Rudy Van Buren. It'll be 17th for him. But what about Josh Rogers? Where is our championship leader? That's key. I think he's just behind, actually. He's just coming across the line now. So Rogers will pick up points for 18th position. Keika Shub comes over the line in 22nd for BS. And just behind Jan Venninger. And Sami Matti Trogan down there as well. Felix Ludding, 5th in the championship, only 23rd. And he comes across the line. So much chaos, but ultimately the worst of days for Red Bull Esports, with both of their cars watching the race and retiring after lap 1. Plenty of replays and action for race control to still digest, to be honest. There's still so much to look at. And there was Jimmy Broadbent coming across the line in 30th position, so he picks himself a point, just behind Rubens Barrichello and Jürgen Franke in 29th. And Marius Zugan and Alejandro Sanchez recovered to 28th position as well. Sebastian Joe, by the way, 25th. So it was only one Red Bull car that did not finish. The return of Max Verstappen, the story that we were all talking about, ultimately ends with a retirement on lap 2.
Bit of a shame there, but wow, what a way to depart the penultimate round of the season. It is close in the championship. By my calculations, it's just 9 points that Josh Rogers is going to lead now over Mac Backham. It's a terrible day for Red Bull Esports, as you said. Yes, they're both. I think they're both still technically just about in it. Certainly, Sebastian Job is.
Yeah.
But it's not pretty. It is not pretty. It's got to be said.
Well, it was a very entertaining race up front, even if it wasn't perhaps for our championship leaders. Great to have the likes of Bruno Spengler, Martin Kroenke, and Freak Shotos on the podium. Names that are really, really familiar to us all. Matt Backham, Sage Karam winning by just over a second in the end. A big gap to Freak Shotos in 3rd position after that really entertaining battle late on in the race. Tommy Usgaard in 4th position. Sandro Setas in 5th spot. Pablo Lopez finishing in 6th, but it will have a 20-second penalty, so we'll drop out. Bo Albert, therefore, in his debut, in 6th position. Niels Koch 7th. Martin van Loosenord 8th. And Suel Almeida in 9th position. All of these guys moving up because of the penalty. Yuri Kasdorp and Pinheiro in 11th. Dennis Weiss and Bradley Philpott in 12th position. Ryan Barneveld and Phil Dennis only 13th, but did get caught up in various incident and accident. Then Oscar Mangan and Ross Gunn, they've also got a penalty, so they'll drop down. Van Buren and Pakela 15th. Rogers and Guven, therefore, I think will be about 15th position, I think, with all the various movements. That's decent points, considering. Samuel Liebert, Gianni Vecchio down in 18th in the end. Real disappointment for them. Sami Matti-Trogan, Jan Venninger rounds out the top 10. Keika Schub, 21st. Then Andrews and Lemonak in 22nd. Felix Ludding, 23rd. Wickens and Andre, 24th. Engenjob, 25th, very important. And then the rest of our top 30, with Jimmy Broadbent getting himself a point for 30th position, and Rubens Barrichello finishing just ahead. Harry Tinknell down in 31st. I think he did the race on his own by the looks of things. And then Butcher, Talens, Bortolotto, Dries van Thor, he was disqualified, and all the rest of these guys are cars that unfortunately retired out of the race, including Verstappen, Lauren Heinrich, Graham Carroll, Maximilian Beneke. And actually, Danny Uccardello, we didn't even report on that. Some other cars that were caught up even before that big accident: Nick Yellerly, Dan Harper, and Will Stevens.
Bit of a chaotic race there, don't you think? There's also, it's already getting news coming in that the number 89 for what was Niels Koch at the wheel at the end of the race, getting a 1-second penalty. That'll be for exceeding track limits. We did see them run quite wide through the final chicane, so switching those positions back around. So the race has only just ended, Ben, and we've already had a change. And to be fair, considering how things were in that race, I'd expect we're going to see much, much more.
It was only a couple of really big incidents at the start of the race, and once that happened, it didn't look as though there were too many incidents and accidents, although they're looking at the retirement list, there's quite a few cars that we are kind of unaccounted for. We didn't see why they retired, although they are in the retirement list.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a long night for race control to at least go through and find out what happened to everyone.
Right, another celebration in the Coanda household, but it's not the usual contenders who've taken the win. It is Matt Backham and Sage Karam. No, Sage Karam obviously over in the US, so Matt's going to have to celebrate on his own, or have 2 beers and cheers them together, Mac. How about that?
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, it was a good race. I'm quite happy with that, so definitely some celebrations coming up after this.
Sage did a great job for you in qualifying and in that first stint of the race. Was it relatively easy to keep the gap in the second half?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, Sage did a really, really brilliant job in qualifying. He got that lap in when it mattered, when he had the opportunity. That's he was an absolute beast in qualifying, and then in the race he kept it very clean. I think we kind of discussed it. We wanted to just keep it clean in the opening laps. We knew there was nothing to really win there because the draft is so strong here. So you just have to kind of stick with the other guy, and you'll be good for the rest of the race. So yeah, Sage did a brilliant job in the first stint, and then we came out with I think it was like a 1.5 second lead or something out of the pit. So I knew I was out of draft range, and I knew from practice that Martin and I were pretty close on pace. So unless anything too crazy happened, I knew that he would not really realistically be able to catch me in the time that we had. So it was all about just managing the gap, especially in the last 2 laps. I just took it a little bit easier because I knew draft range was still quite far away. So yeah, I think Sage did all the heavy lifting today, and for me it was a relative easy cruise to the finish.
But it does look as though it might move you into championship contention for the final round at the end of March. You versus the Coanda train of Josh Rogers. That's going to be an interesting one in the household for the next couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, it's definitely interesting. I mean, I always cook in the house, so maybe on race day I'll give him a little raw chicken right before the race, and we'll see what happens.
All right, there's a strategy. We'll watch out for that in the next couple of weeks. Mac, thank you very much for chatting with us. We're just going to turn this one around, and we'll get Sage on the line all the way from America in just a few moments' time. But ultimately, it's good to see a smile, isn't it? And these guys are obviously enjoying their racing, however intense it is.
Well, it's always sort of that sweet relief when you cross the line as a victor in a race, and you can take that sigh of relief and just think, wow, I've done that, I've got that race done. Considering it was chaos, they are lucky to survive, so good on them, and it's nice to see them happy with it.
Yeah, absolutely, and great to see Martin Kroenke and Bruno Spengler in P2. Just a word on them and the improvements that we've seen from that pairing throughout the last 5 rounds.
Oh, they did such a good job. I mean, I've got to say, a lot of that drive did come down to how well Bruno Spengler was in the early stages of that race. Same with Sage Karam as well, but all of the pro drivers, at least towards the top end, really stepped their game up this time.
Yeah, and obviously keeping out of trouble. Let's see if we can connect to America, to Sage Karam and his shorts over there. I think he's not quite ready for us yet, so let's bring in Somil and find out how the chat was feeling with that intense second half of the race.
Overwhelmed, Ben. Everyone just really had a good time. Of course, there was a bit of grumpiness after seeing Max Verstappen not really make it towards the very end, but people were entertained by the battle towards the end. People were really impressed with the way Sage Karam and Mac Backham drove right there, and Mac Backham's family members also came up there on the chat to support him, so that was a really heartwarming moment to see.
Frustrating for the fans as well to watch the accidents that we've seen tonight, knowing that there was an actual contact that we could see, and yet huge punishment for some of the drivers involved.
Yeah, you're right, Ben. It's just a case of what sim racing is. Sometimes it can so happen and the contact isn't quite visual, but the simulator does assume it to be there. And that's just the nature of sim racing, right? You're getting all the benefits. Sometimes you have to deal with some of the drawbacks as well. And this was one of those incidences. But on the whole, not having any safety cars, just having 40 minutes of intense fun sprint racing, I think in the end people enjoyed the show quite a fair bit. I know I did.
Yeah, and almost sad to think that this was the penultimate round and just one round remaining, Lewis, to get everything tied up.
Got that championship to really think of. We did get word that the Fun Race Championship has been settled. It is Max Benneker, the champion over there. More on that. Obviously, we'll carry that on at least into next round. There's still going to be another round of it. Just because it's been won doesn't mean it's over. So we're still going to have some more fun heading into the next round. And I'm sure with the championship, let's get ourselves a nice track as well. Get a good championship finale circuit. If you want to get involved in that vote, of course, head over to social media, follow on Twitter, VCO, and get yourself voting.
Yeah, I agree. We need to have some words with VCO and make sure we get a proper combination for the real drivers. Here's Sage Karam, just rehydrating Sage. I think you had the harder stint there to fight off at the start and all that chaos around you going on.
Yeah, I mean, when you start the race and have to qualify the car, it's definitely a more stressful VCO week than, just doing the last stint. So next week I'm looking forward to just finishing the race. But no, overall it was a great race. We got lucky staying out of some of those messes in front of us early in the race. I was just able to do kind of consistent laps. So I had a little bit of a gap, and I knew the guys behind me were like bump drafting and stuff, trying to get up to us. And once they got there, they ended up making another mistake. So it gave me a little bit more breathing room. And my main goal was just to give the car to Mac with not a lot of incident points racked up on it, so he could just kind of go out there and just not focus on that and just just focus and hammer down on driving. So, he did a great job. It's cool that, we didn't really we haven't gotten a podium yet in the series, so we just kind of skipped all the other steps and went to the top. So, our goal was to come in here and get a podium, but, it's a good feeling to grab the win. It's going to, I think it, boosts us pretty good in the points, and hopefully we can make a run in the last round here.
Yeah, it looks like you might be coming from behind for the championship. What clicked on this particular round that perhaps you were struggling with before?
I don't know. I think I was able to put qualifying together. There was a round before where I qualified second, but then I ended up getting a penalty, and I think just putting that lap together, starting up front, you get like a better chance of staying out of the trouble and being able to mix it up front with those guys. So qualifying was definitely huge for us today. And then, like I said, just getting a good start. But, I am looking forward to just finishing the race next week. This was definitely a heavy workload. So, really pumped to get a win. It's really, really cool. It's a cool series for a lot of good guys in here. So whenever you can win in here, you've been on top of your game today, and you beat a lot of good guys.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Sage. I hope you have a great day whilst the rest of your teammates are enjoying a beer in the Coanda house on your behalf, I imagine.
Yeah, I think Mac's gonna get a nice brew for me. But no, I got another race coming up tonight with Lionheart, so I'll be on the sim all day.
That's commitment. Thank you very much, Sage. Great to have you with us, and let's see if you can get that championship in the last round, which is in about 4-5 weeks. It's kind of a long wait before we get this championship done and dusted, Lewis.
31st, if memory serves, but
yeah,
it was very cool to see Sage Karam, who's obviously done a fair amount in the real world, still have a sim racing win and still say, it means a lot to take that victory. It's cool every time you go toe to toe with these guys.
Yep, it absolutely does. Some final thoughts from the chat this evening. Ultimately, great to have Max with us, but unfortunately that we didn't really get a delivery of a win that everyone was expecting, really.
Yeah, exactly. It might have broken the heart of quite a fair few people, but the big thing was people actually recognized that, oh, well, we've come here to see Max. Max isn't quite doing the best. Why don't we stick around? I mean, some people did, and they really got exposed to the great talents that the guys like Sage Cameron, Mac Backham, and the rest have, and really enjoyed the stuff. So if anything, it really offered them a good platform to learn more about these professional sim racing drivers and understand what the sport is all about. Frankly, it's a big win.
That is exactly kind of the technique, I suppose.
Exactly.
Guys, thank you very much for joining us on this round. It's been really, really cool to have you on board. Apologies from my end for the rubbish internet connection that I've experiencing this evening. I hope it didn't jeopardise your viewing too much. As I say, quite a long wait until our last round, but make sure you keep up to date with everything that's going on with the VCO Esports, both on their website and on their YouTube channel. Chat show every week, and we've got plenty of other racing action across all the different platforms to fill your needs whilst you wait for our VCO ProSim final round. But for the moment, thank you very much for joining us, and good night.